The board will now come to order. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Schweitzer. Alderman Oldenburg. Alderman Cone. Alderman Narayan.
Here.
Alderman Balmer.
Present.
Alderwoman Velazquez.
Present.
Alderwoman Sanye. Alderwoman Spencer. Alderman Browning.
Present.
Alderwoman Clark Hubbard. Alderwoman Keys. Alderwoman Tyus.
Present.
Alderwoman Boyd. Alderman Aldridge.
Present.
President Green.
Present.
Alderman Cone. Alderwoman Sanye. Alderwoman Clark Hubbard. Alderwoman Boyd. 12 present. You have quorum.
A quorum being present, we will be led in opening reflection by Blake Strode, Executive Director of Arch City Defenders. Come on up.
Good morning. Thank you for having me this morning. In honor of the Juneteenth holiday, I wanted to share a reading that I think captures the paradox of the holiday that calls us to reflect on both the foundational injustice of slavery and the celebration of freedom for many on that day. So I'm going to read an abbreviated version of the poem, Let America Be America Again by Langston Hughes. Let America be America again. Let it be the dream it used to be. Let it be the pioneer on the plain, seeking a home where he himself is free. America never was America to me. Let America be the dream the dreamers dreamed. Let it be that great strong land of love, where never kings connive nor tyrants scheme, that any man be crushed by one above. It never was America to me. Oh, let my land be a land where liberty is crowned with no false patriotic wreath, but opportunity is real and life is free. Equality is in the air we breathe. There's never been equality for me, nor freedom in this homeland of the free. Say, who are you that mumbles in the dark, and who are you that draws your veil across the stars? I am the poor white, fooled and pushed apart. I am the Negro bearing slavery's scars. I am the red man driven from the land. I am the immigrant clutching the hope I seek and finding only the same old stupid plan of dog eat dog, of mighty crush the weak. I am the farmer, bondsman to the soil. I am the worker, sold to the machine. I am the Negro, servant to you all. I am the people, humble, hungry, mean. Hungry yet today, despite the dream. Beaten yet today, O pioneers. I am the man who never got ahead, the poorest worker bartered through the years. Oh, I'm the man who sailed those early seas in search of what I meant to be my home. For I'm the one who left dark Ireland's shore and Poland's plain and England's grassy lea. And torn from black Africa's strand I came to build a homeland of the free. The free? Who said the free? Not me, surely not me. The millions on relief today, the millions shot down when we strike, the millions who have nothing for our pay, for all the dreams we've dreamed, and all the songs we've sung, and all the hopes we've held, and all the flags we've flung. The millions who have nothing for our pay except the dream that's almost dead today. Oh, let America be America again, the land that never has been yet and yet must be. The land where every man is free. The land that's mine, the poor man's, Indians, Negroes, me. Who made America, whose sweat and blood, whose faith and pain, whose hand at the foundry, whose plow in the rain, must bring back our mighty dream again. Sure, call me any ugly name you choose. The steel of freedom does not stain. From those who live like leeches on the people's lives, we must take back our land again, America. Oh yes, I say it plain. America never was America to me, and yet I swear this oath, America will be. Thank you.
We will dispense the regular order of business to take up the courtesy resolution calendar. Alderman from the 2nd, you are recognized on the motion to suspend the rules for the purposes of introducing courtesy resolution 5 and 7.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I move to suspend the rules for the purposes of introducing Resolution 75 and 76.
It's been moved by the Alderman from the 2nd, seconded by the Alderwoman from the 10th, that we suspend the rules for the purposes of introducing resolution number 75 and 76. This is a non-debatable motion. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Schweitzer. Alderman Oldenburg. Alderman Cone. Alderman Narayan.
Aye.
Alderman Balmer.
Aye.
Alderwoman Velazquez.
Aye.
Alderwoman Sanye. Alderwoman Spencer.
Aye.
Alderman Browning.
Aye.
Alderwoman Clark Hubbard.
Aye.
Alderwoman Keys. Alderwoman Tyus.
Aye.
Alderwoman Boyd. Alderman Aldridge.
Aye.
President Green.
Aye.
Alderman Cone. Alderwoman Sanye. Alderwoman Boyd. 12 aye votes.
By your vote, you sustain the motion for the Alderman from the 2nd. If you could please put resolutions number 75 and 76 at the end of the courtesy resolution calendar. This time, I would like to recognize Alderwoman from the 11th to approach the dais with your honored guests. If your honored guests want to come up and come in here so we have a little bit more space for you. Come on up. Oh, Alderwoman, you can come in here. Yes, inside.
Into the pit.
Yeah, and your guests are welcome to join you as well.
We just want you closer so we can go dark.
Yeah, come on. So, and thank you, Madam President and members of the board. So the persons who are making their way here to the dais, these are the members, long-serving, dedicated members of the full-service schools, which used to be called the Community Schools Program. Most of them have served faithfully at Yateman Liddell. And they have fought off many challenges over the years of trying to keep Yateman open. This school is very vital to our community. These people have given countless hours and given of their time and their talent and their wisdom to help our young people. When I first became involved with this organization, I was a committee woman in what was then the 21st Ward, and Juliet Crowder, I think, was our community schools person at that time. And under that administration, you know, they offered many things. My boys took piano lessons at the community schools program. I attempted to learn a foreign language at the community schools program. Didn't work out too well. I speak English and bad English. And so there were so many offerings. But this lady right here was the game changer. This is Melissa Nash, Dr. Melissa Nash. When Melissa came in, she brought such innovative programs in for our young people as well as people who are utilizing the community schools program, HiSET. And I'll let her talk a bit more about the other activities and programs that she helped to bring. And nobody does anything by themselves. All of these people here were instrumental in helping that program be very successful. Unfortunately, our school board has decided that the full-service schools are no longer needed, and I think that is a gigantic mistake. It is a gigantic mistake for our city, a gigantic mistake for our schools and for our children, and for all of the adults, young adults, who utilize that program. There are many people who went through that program who became CNAs, who went on to be LPNs, who went on to be full-fledged nurses. There are many people who came to that program who could barely read. They were able to gain a GED. Those types of things are life-changing for a person. There's data that exists that shows that the better you are educated, the more you can earn. And so this program has helped people in our city, in our community, to be able to provide a better life for themselves and for their families. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Nash.
Thank you, Madam Alderwoman. Thank you all for joining us today. The Full Service School Department started in 2014, and it summed up its year this year in 2024. We have 4 schools within the St. Louis City school system, one being the only middle school north and furthest west in the city with open enrollment. If you know what that means that our students are some of the most underrepresented populated students in the St. Louis metropolitan area. During our tenure, and I say our because this is the Yeaman Liddell board, which is behind us. I also have one of our coordinators, which is at Walbridge Elementary School. We had Vashon High School and Oak Hill, where a lot of students were ESOL students. So the population that we serve is very distinctive. Again, during our tenure, we were able to open the first free healthy food market in the St. Louis metropolitan area. We also opened an essentials boutique where adults in the community could come and they can get service with job training as well as clothing for interviews. This past September, we were able to open a self-care and wellness center, which was open to our community, but focused primarily on our educators. We know if you are not healthy, well, and safe, that you cannot be healthy, well, and safe for others. So we provided, with the blessing of our Alderwoman Keys here, we provided a safe place within the schoolhouse where teachers and community leaders can come and reset before going back into the community. So again, we want to thank you for your continuous support, and we look forward to continuing our services within the St. Louis metropolitan area.
Thank you. Did anyone else have a few words that they wanted to share about their experience with the full-service schools? Bishop, come on over. This is Bishop Holly. Here you are.
Yes. Good morning, everyone, and to the board president, all the esteemed altar men and women. I greet you in the name of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen. Again, thank God that we're here. I thank God for our altar woman in 11th Ward, distinguished Laurie M. Keys. Amen. And I thank God for Dr. Naz drafting me in to be a part. My church is right across the street from Yeaman Liddell School. Amen. And we were there. Anytime she beckoned us, we was there. To load the food, unload the move this, move that, move that. So I was glad to be a part of the full service school. There was a vision, Dr. Petty, all of us met, and there was a vision, amen, that if the schools, they're almost like, they're in the neighborhood. They're like outposts. Churches and schools, if they would unite, they like outposts. They're in them neighborhood. Fairground Park last night, a couple of nights ago, I met the father, the young man that got killed in Fairground Park. The other one ran away. They were playing basketball. Amen. They all had guns. So they carry guns as a part of their makeup now. So you don't argue with young people. They got guns. So we are challenged. Amen. Schools, churches, everyone is challenged. This violence that's going on in our neighborhood is just, it's out of hand. So we ask for your prayers, amen, and thank God for, I worked with Stallings. He's a part of City Hall. He's trying to do something nonviolence in the area and everything. Y'all are really trying, but it's going to take an effort. And I thank God O'Fallon did go down. Crime in St. Louis did go down. Amen. God bless.
Thank you, thank you. All right, I was waiting on him to break into that full sermon. You know, you don't hand the preacher a mic. Okay, there.
Hello, my name is Diamond Carr. I served at Walbridge Elementary for 5 years in the full service schools department, and I just wanted to say that I'm very grateful to have been a part of that full service department because we're in vital neighborhoods. I was located in the Walnut Park area. The schools that we were a part of that we served at were in food deserts, and so I'm very happy that we got to start the grocery stores, and we held the mobile food marts down for the community. As you know, there are a lot of older generation. A lot of older generation lives in the Walnut Park area, and to have that stripped away as a food source for them definitely put a strain on the surrounding communities. We increased the morale of the community with the community ed classes. We had Wash Wednesdays for parents to come in and wash clothes, and I could help wash uniforms to get that back to them so their students could have clean uniforms other than the closet that we had serviced by Little Bit Foundation. We had Stranded Students program when students couldn't get picked up from their bus stops. They were able to bring them to a safe space at Walbridge and Oak Hill Elementary. And so that has stopped. We started after school programs. We contracted in community leaders and entrepreneurs to come in and teach the children different things that they wouldn't normally get in a normal school day, from athletic directors to yoga instructors to art instructors. We've had people come in and teach them how to play instruments, join the band, and many different things. And so I'm really grateful for the leadership before us, with Dr. Brown and Judith King, to come in and teach us how. And Dr. Melissa Nash, I really appreciate you heading this department and taking us to higher places so that the communities we serve, which is needed, the communities we serve can be serviced and not forgotten about. And so thank you to the board members as well. Thank you to my parents. Thank you, Lord. Thank you to my family, my grandparents. I really appreciate all of the motivation and encouragement we had throughout the 10 years of this department flourishing.
So as you've heard, this program was truly vital to our St. Louis public schools and really vital to our communities. People talk about what anchors a neighborhood, what anchors a community. Schools. Schools anchor communities. And when we can provide as many wraparound services that are possible to bring into our communities to fill those areas where there are deficits, that's where the difference is truly made. Dr. Nash and board, I thank you so much for the difference you have made. So, as they say in the church, your living has not been in vain. And I thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Is there any further discussion? Any further discussion? Alderman from the 14th?
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I'd just like to be added as a co-sponsor.
Madam Clerk, please make note of that. Do you want to make a motion for unit?
Usually he does.
Yes.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board, and Alderwoman from the fabulous 12th Ward. I would like to make a motion to embank this resolution.
It's been moved by the Alderman from the 14th, seconded by the Alderwoman from the 1st, that we embank resolution number 64. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Any further discussion? Yes. I don't know if we can be stand on your tiptoes, maybe.
I don't want to be behind. I want to be in the picture. You don't get to have this picture by yourself.
are little cookies. They're little, this is a little bit. With that, Alderman from the 14th, if you would like to approach the dais for the presentation of Resolution 60 and bring up your guests as well. I know. Make the most of the space.
Madam Clerk, could you read the resolution?
Resolution 68. Whereas Madison Ryan has demonstrated an unwavering commitment to serving the community through her charitable and innovative, including her dedicated work with St. Jude's Hospital and her efforts to raise awareness and support for the organization. Whereas Madison has consistently upheld the highest standard of community service and philanthropy, donating her time and resources to make a meaningful impact in lives and others. Whereas Madison's upcoming initiative to establish a collaborative creative art school serving underserved communities hold great promise in furthering the betterment of society. And whereas the Board of Aldermen expressed their deep appreciation for the contributions of Madison and her team and to the community, and declare this opportunity to recognize and celebrate the significant impact of nonprofit organizations on the well-being of our city. Now, therefore, let it be resolved by the Board of Aldermen of the City of St. Louis that we pause in our deliberation to uplift the work of Madison Ryan, is doing the work in our community. We further direct the Clerk of the Board of Aldermen to spread a copy of this resolution across the minutes of the proceedings and prepare a commemorative copy of this resolution to the end that it may be presented to those deemed appropriate by the sponsor. Introduced the 21st day of June by the Honorable Rasheen Aldridge, Alderman of the 14th Ward, and the Honorable Shamim Clark Hubbard.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Members, City of St. Louis, right now we have a legend in front of us. This young lady is born and raised here in the City of St. Louis, and she's been modeling since at the age of 16. And since she's been modeling, she hasn't just modeled here in St. Louis, I mean, world-renowned model. She was just featured in Vogue Arabia, and she was the first black female woman face for Giorgio Armani and Ralph Lauren. She's doing impeccable work, not just on the modeling scene, but she is also giving back to our community with the St. Jude Hospital and all the great work that she does. It's just an honor to be able to recognize her and all the great work. We have so many talented individuals in the city of St. Louis, and we have a lot of gems, a lot of famous people that names we know and some that we don't, and this is one right here that we need to know her name because she's doing great work, not just for the city, but for also giving back to people in the community. So her resume goes long and it goes very far, but I just want to give her flowers while she's here because I know you're going to be traveling. Is it to Paris? So while she is in St. Louis, born and raised here, just want to let her know from the Board of Aldermen, we recognize you, we see the great work you're doing, and we're so proud of you. So thank you so much.
How are you all this morning? Thank you all so much for coming out. Thank you so much. Oh my gosh, like just to be in my city and be honored is such a dream of mine. Being born and raised from St. Louis, Missouri was always such a big dream for me to be in fashion. And coming from the Midwest, that was a very, very hard thing to do when you don't know really how, where to start. But my family pushed me, and I started out doing St. Louis Fashion Week here. And from there, I moved to New York City, and I've been in New York City for almost 15 years now. So it's just like so much time has passed, but to be back in my city with you all here is everything to me. And more than anything, I really just want to uplift our community, and I feel like I have a duty to give back and also to uplift the youth, and especially because there's so much crime happening here. And the youth, they really just need to be inspired and to know that any and everything really is possible. For me to be the first Black woman as the face of Armani Beauty, I'm just still like, wow, you know? Thank you. Doing also work at St. Jude Hospital has been so informative. Just with, speaking to the children, getting to know, the cancer and just different things that they're going through, speaking to the parents, and just wanting to really show that love and support. I think it's all about giving back, So I have no words, y'all. Thank you so much. Thank you to the whole board. Thank you, St. Louis. And Mario right here, this is my guy. He has looked out for me since day one. My mom is right here in the front. Yes. Thank you. Thank you guys so much.
Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Alderwoman from the 10th.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. When you say you don't have no words, I know what you mean. I feel like coming off of Juneteenth, when they talk about people living our ancestors' wildest dreams, you are it. You are living it. You are walking it. I feel like I know you. That's the beauty of social media, right? You get to follow people and feel like you living and enjoying and celebrating them. Thank you, Alderman Aldridge, for bringing this up and honoring her in the unique way that Alderman can in the city of St. Louis, like only Alderman can. You deserve it. And when you are not shining your light, I would be remiss if I didn't uplift your beautiful mother. Because as much as I'm out in the community, please stand, sis, because as much as I'm out in the community, she stands in the gap. And she's a reflection. You all are a reflection of each other. And I'm not talking about seeing her out partying. I see her there too. But I'm talking about out in the community giving back. So you got the spirit, both of y'all, the beautiful spirit and the beautiful smile and the presentation to go with it. So thank you. Please keep going, and know that, like Alderman Aldridge said, we will continue to uplift you.
Thank you so much.
And with that, I would like to make a motion to pass this resolution.
Second.
It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 10th, seconded by the Alderwoman from the 6th, that we bank resolution number 68. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
We get another photo?
We can get another photo.
Come on, you got to get in this one.
Picture day.
Mario.
Mario. I'm going to get on the other side.
Yeah.
Wash between my toes. Huh? I don't smell them. I knew it was something. Oh, you just put this. Oh, let me put it.
This time, Alderman from the 2nd, you may approach the dais for resolution number 75, along with your honored guests. Come on.
Number 3.
Come on. Come on, Dan. Come on. Hello, great to see you.
I'm gonna go get a shot of whiskey.
What is your name? I'm doing good. Because they had to go get out when I became chair of public safety.
I don't know. You must have everybody up. They all left.
They said, Chair Titus is the chair. Let me go get it. Because before that, they didn't do that.
Okay. Madam Clerk, will you please read Resolution 75?
Resolution 75, honoring Demetrius Al Alford. Whereas Demetrius Al Alford has faithfully served the St. Louis Fire Department with distinction and dedication for 33 years, contributing to the safety and well-being of our community through his professionalism, bravery, and expertise. Whereas Al was elected the first Black president of Local 73, where he implemented a comprehensive labor management agreement aimed at enhancing relations between labor and management, fostering increased trust within the organization. Whereas Al served as Local 73 president for a decade before transitioning to the lead Missouri State Council of Firefighters, an organization exclusively chartered by the IAFF, a statewide representative for firefighters. Whereas Al was a fierce advocate and played an instrumental role in the firefighters' pension reform legislation over the years. Whereas Al's contribution extended beyond his professional achievement, he has been a mentor, role model, and an inspirational figure to many within the fire department and the broader community. Whereas the City of St. Louis, its residents, and the members of the St. Louis Fire Department owe a debt of gratitude to Demetrius Al Alford for his unwavering commitment, courage, and service. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Aldermen of the City of St. Louis that we pause in our deliberation to honor and commend Demetrius Al Alford on the occasion of his retirement, express our profound appreciation for his exemplary service, and extend our best wishes for his future endeavors. We further direct the Clerk of the Board of Aldermen to spread a copy of this resolution across the minutes of the proceedings and prepare a commemorative copy of this resolution to an end that it may be presented to those deemed appropriate by the sponsor. Introduced this 21st day of June 2024 by the Honorable Thomas Oldenburg, Alderman of the 2nd Ward, and Alderwoman Shameen Clark Hubbard of the 10th Ward.
Excellent. Thank you, Madam Clerk. 5691, right? 33 years of service to the St. Louis Fire Department has Demetrius Al Alford given. I did a little background check on you with some of the fellow firefighters, and those you served with put Al to words such as this: great guy, excellent and knowledgeable firefighter, a mentor, a coach, always had our back, integrity, shoots you straight, simply put, the best. When asked to put words to Al, his superiors and managers in the fire department had this to say: exceptional firefighter, always had his crew's back and best intentions, always willing to teach and put in the extra work. When asked his Local 73 fellow members to put Al to words, these same phrases came up, with the exception of one other, that was, Al was always willing to talk, have a conversation, and find middle ground. And those of us who have worked with you in a business transactional way at the Board of Aldermen and throughout the city, that couldn't be more true, Al. We appreciate you always taking time and your vociferous and fierce advocacy for Local 73. They all owe you a great debt of gratitude. So, we honor you. Your city loves you. Your city cares about you. We're grateful for your years of service, and we honor you at this time and this place. Congratulations.
Any further discussion? Alderman from the 4th.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. Al, just want to thank you for A, your years of service, and B, the amount of time and energy you've put into advocating for the guys in 73. You have led them through a pension reform that was hard fought and difficult, and I learned more about pensions than I ever thought I would. But it's been great getting to know you as well, and I know you'll still be around, but I hope that you find some time to live a more chill life and maybe not run into burning buildings as much in your retirement. Literally. And I'd like to move that we make resolution number 75 in bank.
Second.
It's been moved by the Alderman from the 4th, seconded by of folks, I'm going to go with the alderman from the 5th because he's closest to me and I could hear him the loudest, to M-Bank resolution number, 75. 75, any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Alderman from the 5th.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. Al, I got bad news for you. The chief's here and he wants you back, sorry. He says, eh. No, Al, it's always been a pleasure dealing with you in any way, shape, or form, especially after hours having a cigar and a cocktail. So enjoy your time. Hope to see you more at the tavern. Thank you, sir.
Alderman from the 14th.
Thank you, I'm gonna call you Big Al. Thank you, Big Al, for all the work that you've done for the city of St. Louis. Firemen and women, y'all have a job that is very tough. Y'all save a lot of lives, and sometimes we always just look at our police, but we forget about all the hard work that our fire and EMT do. I just want to thank you. I know my years as a young buck from committee man, you've always shown me love. You always are in the neighborhood, just have this great energy and aura around you. You continue to do the work here locally, and even sometimes when you got to go up to Jeff City to testify, you've been up there. So just thank you for your leadership, and just thank you showing young black men like me what it means to be a role model and a strong black man. So thank you.
Alderwoman from the 10th.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I'm going to be very candid and very transparent with you. Why? Because I'm going to tell the story why I value our relationship so much is because we built it with each other, not in the traditional way that you have built relationships with others since Local 73 didn't support me. And I love that you still came and we still were able to talk, not just about legislation, but about things that were going on overall in the city, about the needs for St. Louis Fire Department, which everybody knows I love and have a heart for. And I just wish you the best and Godspeed. And I don't want you to know that I never took our relationship in this capacity for granted. And now I give you full leisure to take the relationship that I have as your older lady for granted. Call me anytime. Be blessed.
Any further discussion, Alderman from the 3rd?
Thank you, Madam President. Al, echoing the sentiments of my colleague from the 10th, I think it's no secret that we've had our disagreements over the years. But thank you. Point of order.
Have some decorum, Alderman from the 2nd.
Rule 38, Madam President. Appreciate you, though. So the one thing about our relationship that I also value, similar to my colleague from the 10th, is that you always made yourself available. We were always able to have a conversation. We could disagree without being disagreeable. And that's a personal philosophy of mine that I carry with me, and I know you do. And I think that builds mutual understanding and respect amongst people when you're able to have those conversations. And it's something that was very refreshing, particularly with Local 73 and your leadership there. And of course, you took that to the state level, and your service to our city, the last 30 plus years has been absolutely amazing. And I wish you all the best in your future endeavors, and hope to meet up with you at Milo's sometime or in the 10th Ward. Thank you, Al.
Any further discussion? Alderwoman from the 6th.
I just want to echo my colleagues in thanking you for your service and also all the trails that you blazed in your career. I know that sometimes being the first is difficult at times, but you've done it. You've taken your advocacy not just here, but across the state. So I wish you all the best in your next chapter, but thank you for doing all that you've done for us.
Discussion. Any further discussion? Alderwoman from the 8th.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I'll just echo congratulations and many thanks to you, Al. It's been a pleasure to work with you and get you down here for sure.
Any further discussion? At this point, I would like to invite the chief up if he would like to say anything as well.
Probably won't need the mic, but
it's for our folks at home.
Okay.
Yeah, camera's that way.
I am. Al, it's It's been a pleasure. It's been an honor. You've made my job over my past almost 18 years as chief easier than most people know. If I had an issue with regards to manpower, ordinances, anything within the city, and I needed another opinion, I needed a truthful opinion, whether I liked it or not, I would talk to Al. I relied on his professionalism, his experience, his ability to have a difficult conversation and still remain professional. I consider him a confidant. I'm very sorry that he is leaving, but I will say on certain fires, certain incidents where I knew he was on the scene with the rescue squad, always gave me a level of comfort. But I can also say that I've seen him crawl out of too many burning buildings, collapsed buildings, and I'm thinking to myself, man, he's getting too old to do this. And when I would see his dear wife, because you better take care of him. I said, well, I've seen you more in the last couple of weeks than I've seen you in 18 years. So that's a good thing. Enjoy your retirement. Enjoy your family. And remember, you always have a family in the St. Louis Fire Department. Congratulations.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, I would be remiss, Al, to say we go way back. I can't even remember how far back at this point in time, but it's been a minute, and you've always been somebody that is responsive, picks up the phone, tells me what you think, whether I like it or not, isn't afraid to push back, and as a result, you have, I think, ushered in a union that is one of our strongest unions in this city, and I think that cannot be understated. You've laid a foundation for Local 73 to make sure that our firefighters in the city really get the wages and benefits and supports that they need and deserve. And so congratulations on the next step. I hope that includes a beach and a drink in your hand. But we will all still be here to, I'm sure, hit you up and pick your brain on issues. So even though you're moving on to your next chapter, don't think you're getting away from us that easily. So congratulations.
Wow. First of all, let me say thank you for this honor. I'm at a loss for words, guys. You guys know me. I'm a regular guy. I just try to do the best I can with what I had. And you guys were a pleasure to work with. I think you're still going to be a pleasure to work with going forward. I'm not going anywhere. I just, like the chief said, I'm just not getting on the truck anymore. President of State Council Firefighters, which means I spent a lot of time up in Jefferson City, but I've also told Local 73 that I'll come down here at any time. Anything needs to be done, we'll still be involved. I am blown away. This is an honor. It was an honor and a privilege to work for the St. Louis Fire Department, service the citizens of the city of St. Louis. I enjoyed it. Best time of my life. And I'll try to keep things going the best I can. Thank you very much.
One more picture?
One more picture.
Right. Where's his axe?
Give him your phone, so you can have your own picture. Okay.
Press to press, baby. Squeeze in. Short guys in the back. Yep. Get in there. No. 4, 5. Good job, John. Bug flew in his eye.
Do y'all want to?
I stood at the end so you can crop me out later.
With the retirement comes a gift.
Right. Madam Clerk, there has been a request to move resolution number 67 to the first reading of resolution.
I'm sorry, Madam President, can you repeat that for me?
There has been a request to put resolution 67 on the first reading of resolution.
So noted.
Thank you. With that, it has been Alderwoman from the 10th, you are recognized on the motion to adopt the courtesy resolution calendar.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I move that we adopt the courtesy resolution calendar.
There a second? It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 10th, seconded by the Alderwoman from the 1st, that we adopt the courtesy resolution consent calendar. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Introduction of honored guests. Alderwoman from the 10th.
Thank you, Madam President, and members of the board. My first honored guest is the family of John Christmas, who are laying him to rest as I speak. I want to keep them lifted up in prayer. The son, the wife, the daughters, the husband, the brother of John Christmas. I wish I could be there with you all. Bria and Gerald, you all know. But again, I told you this morning, I'm lifting you up. I'm there in spirit, and we will continue to pray and stand with your family in the days forward. And then I would like to have as my honored guest a St. Louis legend who many of my colleagues have had the honor of sitting with. I haven't had the honor of sitting with yet, and that's Hank Thompson. And today is his birthday. So happy birthday, Hank Thompson. I hope that we can one day really get that date scheduled so I can get on your show. You are a legend in St. Louis. I love history, and you are absolutely someone who's made history. Thank you for all you do.
Any further introduction of honored guests? Any further introduction of honored guests? Seeing none, Alderwoman from the 10th, you're recognized on the approval of the minutes from Friday, June 14th, 2024.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I move that we adopt the minutes from Friday, June 14th, 2024.
So moved.
Second.
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 And moved by the Alderwoman from the 10th, seconded by the Alderman from the 5th, that we approve the minutes from Friday, June 14th, 2024. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Report of city officials.
Report of city officials can be found in A, B, and C of the agenda and has been placed in the Google Drive for your review. Dear members of the board, I have the pleasure to submit the following individuals for appointment to the Detention Facilities Oversight Board. The appointment of Kanika Harper and the appointment of Osmond Gay. I respectfully request your approval of these appointments. Sincerely, Tashara O. Jones, Mayor.
Alderman from the 9th, you are recognized on Mayor Jones' appointments to the Detention Facilities Oversight Board.
Thank you. I'd like to move these appointments to the Public Safety Committee.
Second. It's been moved by the Alderman from the 9th, seconded by the Alderman from the 14th, that we send Mayor Jones' appointments to the Detention Facilities Oversight Board to the Public Safety Committee. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Dear members of the board, I have the pleasure to submit the following individuals for appointment to the Cheshire Annex Community Improvement District. The reappointment of Stephen O'Laughlin, the reappointment of Kathy Rafferty, and the reappointment of Joseph Mooney. I respectfully request your approval of these appointments. Sincerely, Tashara O. Jones, Mayor.
Alderman from the 4th, you are recognized on Mayor Jones' appointments to the Cheshire Annex Community Improvement District. We will go to the Alderman from the 14th instead.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I move to approve the appointments to the Cheshire Community Improvement District.
Is there a second? Second. It's been moved by the Alderman from the 14th, seconded by the Alderwoman from the 7th, that we approve Mayor Jones' appointments to the Cheshire Annex Community Improvement District. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Dear members of the board, I have the pleasure to submit the following individuals for appointment to the Convention and Visitors Commission. The reappointment of Reginald Johnson, the reappointment of Charles Downs, the reappointment of Mary Elizabeth Grimes, and the appointment of Janaea Sorrow. I respectfully request your approval of this appointment. Sincerely, Tashara O. Jones, Mayor.
Alderman from the 14th, you're recognized on Mayor Jones' appointments to the Convention and Visitors Commission.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I move in these appointments to the Transportation and Commerce Committee.
Second. It's been moved by the Alderman from the 14th, seconded by the Alderwoman from the 7th, that we send Mayor Jones' appointments to the Transportation and Commerce Committee. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Does anyone wish to take any bills or resolutions off of any of our informal calendars? Alderwoman from the 11th.
Thank you, Madam President. I would like to request that Board Bill number 37 be placed on the informal calendar.
Madam Clerk, please make note of that. Place Board Bill 37 on the informal calendar. Seeing none, at this time, Alderman from the 3rd, you are recognized on the rules for the purposes of introducing Board Bills 56, 57, and 58.
Thank you, Madam President. I move to suspend the rules for the purposes of introducing Board Bills 56, 57, and 58.
Second.
It's been moved by the Alderman from the 3rd, seconded by the Alderman from the 14th, that we suspend the rules for the purposes of introducing Board Bills 56, 57, and 58. This is a non-debatable motion. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Schweitzer. Aye. Alderman Oldenburg. Alderman Cone.
Aye.
Alderman Narayan.
Aye.
Alderman Balmer.
Aye.
Alderwoman Velazquez.
Aye.
Alderwoman Sanye.
Aye.
Alderwoman Spencer. Alderman Browning.
Aye.
Alderwoman Clark Hubbard. Aye. Alderwoman Keys.
Aye.
Alderwoman Tyus.
Aye.
Alderwoman Boyd.
Aye.
Alderman Aldridge.
Aye.
President Green.
Aye.
15 aye votes.
By your vote, you sustain the motion from the Alderman from the 3rd. If you could please place Board Bills 56, 57, and 58 at the end of the first reading of Board.
So noted.
First reading of Board Bills.
Board Bill 54, sponsored by Alderwoman Boyd, an ordinance directing the Director of Streets to install speed humps pursuant to ordinance number 70333, as amended by ordinance number 71394, to calm the flow of traffic on the 1500 and through the 1800 blocks of McLaren Avenue and the 8000 block of Church Drive. Board Bill 55, sponsored by Alderwoman Schweitzer, an ordinance establishing various stop sites at the intersection throughout the First Ward, regulating all traffic traveling on streets, meeting at such intersections of throughout the First Ward, containing an emergency clause. Board Bill 56, sponsored by Alderman Cone, an ordinance appropriating the sum of $25,175,000 as described in Section 94.600 through 94.655 Revised Statutes of Missouri, 2000 as amended, for the period of July 1st, 2024 through June 30th, 2025, which sum is hereby appropriated out of the Transportation Trust Fund to the Bi-State Development Agency for transportation purposes, containing the severability and emergency clause. Board Bill 57, sponsored by Alderman Cone, an ordinance pertaining to the transit sales tax imposed pursuant to Section 94.660 Revised Statutes of Missouri, as adopted by the voters of the City of St. Louis on August 2nd, 1994, pursuant to Ordinance 63168, creating the City Public Transit Sales Tax Trust Fund, directing the Treasurer of the City of St. Louis to deposit funds pursuant to said sales tax into the City Public Transit Sales Tax Trust Fund, Account 1, appropriating $13,069,000 from the said sales tax for the period of July 1st, 2024 through June 30th, 2025 to the Bi-State Development Agency for certain purposes, containing a severability clause and an emergency clause. Board Bill 58, sponsored by Alderman Cone, an ordinance pertaining to the transit sales tax imposed pursuant to Section 94.660, adopted by the voters of the City of St. Louis on November 4th, 1997, pursuant to Ordinance Number 64111, creating the City Public Transit Sales Tax Trust Fund, directing the Treasurer of the City of St. Louis to deposit funds received pursuant to said sales tax into the City Public Transit Sales Tax Trust Fund, account to appropriating $13,069,000 from the said sales tax for the period of July 1st, 2024 through June 30th, 2025 to the Bi-State Development Agency for certain purposes containing a severability clause and an emergency clause. That's the extent of first reading of board bills.
Madam Clerk, if you could please assign Board Bills 56, 57, and 58 to transfer to
So noted.
reference to Committee of Board Bills.
To the Public Infrastructure Committee, Board Bill 54 and 55. To Transportation and Commerce, Board Bill 56, 57, and 58. That's the extent of reference to Committee of Board Bills.
Second reading report of standing committees.
The following board bill was reported out of the Budget Committee with the due pass recommendation. Board Bill 1 as amended, sponsored by President Green and Alderwoman Spencer, an ordinance making appropriation for payments of interest, expenses, principal of the city's bond indebtedness, establishing city tax rates, and making appropriation for current year expenses of the city government containing emergency clause. The following board bill was reported out of legislation with the due pass recommendation. Board Bill 30 as amended, sponsored by Alderman Aldridge, Alderman Orion, and Alderwoman Velazquez. An ordinance submitting to the qualified voters of the City of St. Louis a proposal to change Article 16, Section 3 of the Charter of the City of St. Louis to permit the Board of Aldermen to increase the amount of any item in appropriation proposed in the city's annual budget ordinance, except amounts fixed by the statute for the payment of interest or the principal or interest of the city debt, or for meeting any ordinance obligation calling for the election of vote on said change in a matter of voting at the election, the publication and certification, deposit and recording as required by Article 6, Section 33 of the Missouri Constitution containing the emergency clause. The following board bills were reported out of Public Infrastructure with the due pass recommendation. Board Bill 25 as amended, sponsored by Alderman Oldenburg, pursuant to ordinance number 70333, as amended by ordinance number 71394, and ordinance directing the Director of Streets to install speed humps to calm the flow of traffic on the 5800 block of Lauren Avenue, 5300 block of Alfred Avenue, 5300 block of Gilson Avenue, the 8000 block of Wanda Avenue, the 4900 block of Nagel Avenue, the 5600 block of Holly Hills Avenue, and the 6400 block of Murdoch Avenue. Board Bill 51 as amended, sponsored by Alderwoman Schweitzer, Alderman Browning, Alderwoman Velazquez, Alderwoman Keys, and Alderman Aldridge. An ordinance repealing ordinance number 69955, codified in Chapter 3.110.120 of the Revised Code of the City of St. Louis, and in lieu thereof enacting a new ordinance relating to a complete streets policy for the City of St. Louis relating to the standards and guiding principles for the planning, design, construction, reconstruction of any public right-of-way of the right-of-way to consider all users, containing provisions for contractors and utilities relating to the blocking or closure of the public right-of-way containing the severability clause. Board Bill 53, sponsored by Alderwoman Sangay, an ordinance establishing a four-way stop site at various sections in the 7th Ward to regulate all traffic traveling in all directions containing an emergency clause. The following board bill was reported out of Health and Human Development with a due pass recommendation. Board Bill 36, sponsored by Alderwoman Spencer, an ordinance repealing Chapter 11.28 of the Revised Code of the City of St. Louis pertaining to abortions by repealing Section 11.28.010 of the Revised Code of the City of St. Louis, Section 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 10 of Ordinance Number 56729, codified in Section 11.28.010, 11.28.020, 11.28.030, 11.28.031, 11.040, 11.28.050, 11.28.060, 11.28.070, 11.28.080, 11.28.090, and 11.28.100 of the Revised Code of the City of St. Louis, Sections 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15 of ordinance number 56579. That is to extend a second reading report of standing committees.
Alderwoman from the 8th, you're recognized on the motion to suspend the rules for the purposes of moving Board Bill 1 as amended to the regular perfection calendar. Alderwoman from the 8th.
Thank you, Madam President. Members of the board, I move that we suspend the rules for the purpose of moving Board Bill number 1 as amended to the perfection calendar.
Second. It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 8th, seconded by the Alderwoman from the 7th, that we suspend the rules for the purposes of Board Bill 1 as amended to the regular perfection calendar. This is a non-debatable motion. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Schweitzer. Aye. Alderman Oldenburg. Aye. Alderman Cone.
Aye.
Alderman Ryan.
Aye.
Alderman Vollmer.
Aye.
Alderwoman Velazquez.
Aye.
Alderwoman Sanye.
Aye.
Alderwoman Spencer.
Aye.
Alderman Browning.
Aye.
Alderwoman Clark Hubbard.
Aye.
Alderwoman Keys.
Aye.
Alderwoman Tyus.
Present.
Alderwoman Boyd.
Aye.
Alderman Aldridge.
Aye.
President Green.
Aye.
14 aye votes and 1 voted present.
By your vote, you sustain the motion from the Alderwoman from the 8th. If you could please place Board Bill 1 as amended at the end of the regular perfection calendar. Report of special committees. Board bills for perfection consent.
Board Bill 47, sponsored by Alderman Cone and President Green, an ordinance recommended and approved by the Airport Commission, the Board of Public Service, and the Board of Estimate and Apportionment, establishing and authorizing a public works and improvement program at St. Louis Lambert International Airport, providing for and consisting of capital improvement projects as more fully described in the attached Exhibit A entitled Airport Use and Lease Agreement, Third Amendment Project List, containing a severability clause and an emergency clause. Board Bill 50, sponsored by Alderman Cone, an ordinance recommended by the Board of Estimate and Apportionment, authorizing and directing the establishment of an interim financing program to incur indebtedness with an aggregate principal amount not to exceed $650 million outstanding at any time to provide funds to finance, refinance airport improvements, pay capitalized interest, and pay cost of issuance, authorizing and directing the issuance of bonds to effect long-term financing to refinance interim indebtedness, approving and authorizing the preparation, execution, and delivery of necessary or appropriate documents and actions, repealing inconsistent prior ordinances, and containing a severability clause. Board Bill 35, sponsored by Alderman Aldridge, pursuant to ordinance number 70333, as amended by ordinance number 71394, and ordinance directing the Director of Streets to install speed humps to calm the flow of traffic on certain blocks in the 14th Ward. Board Bill 38, sponsored by Alderman Aldridge, an ordinance to install stop signs within various locations within the 14th Ward. Board Bill 49, sponsored by Alderman Browning, an ordinance amending ordinance number 68807 to change the honorary designation of the 4400 block of Washington Boulevard from the Reverend James Brown Senior Boulevard to the honorary designation of Reverend James Brown Senior Avenue. Board Bill 29, sponsored by Alderman Oldenburg and Alderwoman Keys, an ordinance pertaining to the fingerprint-based background check requirements as condition of employment or contract, regulating licensure as a watchman, private security officer, or courier within the City of St. Louis, containing an emergency clause. Board Bill 42, sponsored by Alderman Aldridge, an ordinance authorizing the mayor and the comptroller of the City of St. Louis to execute a temporary construction easement with certain terms and conditions with the Cocosin Ploker LLC to allow its equipment, workers, materials to be transferred through the place and placed upon certain city property for the purpose of constructing and installing the St. Louis Metropolitan Sewer District Bissell Treatment Plant Fluidized Bed Incineration over certain city-owned property, which property is known in number as 61 Ferry Street, containing a severability clause and an emergency clause. That's the extent of perfection consent.
Alderwoman from the 10th, you're recognized on the motion to adopt the board bills for the perfection consent calendar.
Thank you, Madam President. Members of the board, I move that we adopt the board bills for perfection consent calendar.
Second. It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 10th, seconded by the Alderwoman from the 7th, that we adopt the board bills for the perfection consent calendar. Any discussion? Alderman from the 14th.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I'd like to be added as a co-sponsor to Board Bill 29.
Madam Clerk, please make note of that.
So noted.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Board bills for perfection.
Board Bill 45, sponsored by Alderwoman Schweitzer, an ordinance making appropriation for the payment and operating expenses, capital expenses, including lease purchase agreements and debt service expenses for the parking division of the Treasurer's Office for fiscal year July 1st, 2024 through June 30th, 2025, in the sum of $20,436,391, including $2,151,310 for capital improvements containing an emergency clause.
Alderwoman from the 1st, you're recognized on the perfection of Board Bill 45.
Thank you, Madam President. Members of the board, I move to perfect Board Bill 45.
It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 1st, seconded by the Alderman from the 2nd, that we perfect Board Bill number 45. Alderwoman, you may.
Thank you, President. As Madam Clerk said, this is the budget for the parking division. If you look through the exhibits, you can see the different budget expenditures for the administration of the parking division, as well as a garage-by-garage breakdown of both the budgeted items and the money coming in. Happy to answer any questions, and I appreciate your time.
Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Alderwoman from the 12th.
Madam President, members of the board, I'm going to vote present on this, not because I don't want the treasurer to have a budget, but I'm still waiting for that promise of an accounting of the first $500 we gave out, and now the second $500 we gave out under a program about ARPA funds. And I'm happy to see there is a lawsuit now. So even though we didn't get the subpoena signed when I was the chair of the Streets Department, which we should have, from which I should have done a mandibus, we are going to find out who those people are. We, as the Board of Aldermen, should have had that information. The treasurer promised it and did not deliver on that. We got to the Board of Aldermen. The subpoenas are not served, was not signed the way it's supposed to. I don't believe in keeping information from the board, from anybody. We have a right to have that information. And further on, we are now going to ask the auditor to look at another department, and we ought to be asking the auditor to look at the treasurer's office. But for sure, I'm going to go talk to the group of lawyers that are doing this, because I want to be a plaintiff with them and to start opening up our books and stop thinking that there are certain people that don't have to be accountable. I have to be accountable. I have to be accountable. I have to be accountable to the people when they ask me what happened to that money. I can't answer that because we failed here in the Board of Aldermen because we failed to sign the subpoena, but they're going to be accountable. There's going to be an accountability. We have a right to know where our tax dollars are spent. And so I'm going to vote present because I don't think the treasurer's done a good job by trying to hide information from the Board of Aldermen.
Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, Alderwoman from the 1st, you're recognized closed.
Thank you, Madam President. I renew my motion.
It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 1st, seconded by the Alderman from the 2nd, that we perfect Board Bill number 45. There has been a request for roll call. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Schweitzer. Alderman Oldenburg.
Aye.
Alderman Cone.
Aye.
Alderman Narayan.
Aye.
Alderman Balmer.
Aye.
Alderwoman Velazquez. Alderwoman Sanye.
Aye.
Alderwoman Spencer.
Aye.
Alderman Browning.
Aye.
Alderwoman Clark Hubbard. Alderwoman Keys.
Aye.
Alderwoman Tyus.
Present.
Alderwoman Boyd.
Aye.
Alderman Aldridge.
Aye.
President Green.
Aye.
Alderwoman Velazquez. Thirteen aye votes and 1 voted present.
Your vote, you sustain the motion from the Alderwoman from the 1st. Alderwoman from the 8th?
Madam President, can you change my vote to present, please?
Please change Alderwoman from the 8th vote to a present.
Thank you.
So no. So that's 12 aye votes and 2 voted present.
By your vote, you sustain the motion from the Alderwoman from the 1st.
Board Bill 1 as amended, sponsored by President Green and Alderwoman Spencer. An ordinance making appropriation for payment of interest, expenses, and principal of the city's bond indebtedness, establishing city tax rates, making appropriation for current year expenses of the city government, containing an emergency clause.
Alderwoman from the 8th, you're recognized on the perfection of Board Bill 1 as amended.
Thank you, Madam President. Members of the board, I move that we perfect Board Bill number 1 as amended.
It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 8th, seconded by the Alderman from the 14th, that we perfect Board Bill number 1 as amended.
Thank you, Madam President. Members of the board, Board Bill number 1 as amended is the budget. I want to take a moment and really thank the members of the Budget and Public Employees Committee. We did an enormous amount of work combing through the city's budget. The budget director, who was with us every step of the way, kind of walking us through all of the ins and outs of our city's budget, all of the city departments that came before us. It was quite literally tens, maybe even 100 hours of work that this committee undertook to really go through that. Madam President, I want to commend you in your office for helping us do that, and for working with the Board of E&A to make sure that the changes that we were recommending to the Board of E&A got through. While we don't have a perfect city budget, certainly, I think that the changes that this board made, this committee made, are meaningful and help make the services that we can provide better for our citizens. Our work as a Board of Aldermen going through the city's budget is an important endeavor, and one that I'm very proud that we spent a lot of time coming through. Many members of this body that aren't members of that committee spent time listening to various departments, and I want to commend them for those efforts. Our St. Louis City TV, the crew that came out and made sure that we were prepared in advance to hear from the general public. Very meaningful testimony from members of the public who wanted to weigh in on our city's budget. I want to thank everybody who came out for those meetings and participated, and our city staff for making sure that we were on point for that. In particular, Ms. Ora, is she in the room? Yes, she is. Thank you. Keeping us in order. Clerk Kennedy, who did an amazing job just keeping us on track and getting us all organized. Isaiah, who organized all the meetings, of course, did a fantastic job in keeping us fed, and just the city staff, really, all of our secretaries, et cetera, really did an amazing job. So with that, this enormous body of work is culminating here and passing our city's budget in time with some changes that were considered and approved by the Board of E&A. And with that, I ask for everyone's considerable consideration on Board Bill number 1 as amended.
Any further discussion? Alderwoman from the 12th.
Madam President and members of the board, if the Alderwoman from the 8th would yield.
The Alderwoman from the 8th yield to questioning from the Alderwoman from the 12th.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. Madam Alderwoman, I had reason to hear about earlier this year that we had to shorten a meeting because we didn't have the funds, I believe, to pay for the staff to film the rest of a board meeting, and we had something stacked up. And that concerns me because we really had to push, when I first got here, to have our board meetings televised, and a lot of the mayors did not want it because they could put out their own press, and once we got televised, then people could watch the meetings themselves, and then we had to push again to get the committee meetings televised and taped. So I was just wondering if we have enough money in the budget, because I think it's very important for citizens who cannot come to these board meetings, or for aldermen who can't come at certain times, that they will be able to watch the meetings. Can you tell me what our funds look like, or if you had a discussion about what our funds look like to be able to take meetings when they run long? Or are we still in the precarious position of having to cut people off? Because I had some older people tell me that they weren't able to ask questions, or we got to finish this because we got to get it done. So do you know anything about that? That's very important.
Alderwoman, I'm not familiar with a situation in which we've had to cut a meeting short this year. If that happened, my apologies, am unaware of that. I will say that there was some precariousness with regards to being able to have the offsite meetings. The president's office worked with us to find budget to make sure we could do that, have those offsite meetings. I think they're very, very important. Being able to hear from the general public, they had some very meaningful things to add to the discussion, and they made an impact on what we were thinking. So I agree with you; it's very important. I say, one thing we've talked a lot about in our committee hearings is that our population is shrinking, and our tax base, while it's inching up, it's a little bit misleading, that little inch up, because our increase in budget is not keeping up with the cost of inflation or the cost of doing good. So in effect, our budget is shrinking when you're not keeping up with the increase in costs of doing business. So that means that the services that we can provide our citizens is shrinking, quite frankly, and that's very, very worrisome. We should be very concerned about that. Of course, with the lawsuit on the earnings tax, we made a provision of $26 million for that, but that's going to be an ongoing issue as we move forward. And these are things we should all be very, very, very concerned about. Transparency, I think, is key to making sure that the funds that we do have are spent in a way that we can all agree is in the best interest of our citizens. And having all of our hearings and our deliberations, and especially our committee discussions, where a lot of the meat of those the public discussions take place, having them available to the public is incredibly important. We did talk a lot about that. Providing funding for STLTV was an important piece of those deliberations. Those exact figures I don't have in front of me, but I can work to get them for you if that's important.
No, I
before
didn't.
we pass this bill.
I wasn't asking for exact figures. I just don't want for a meeting to have to be cut short. And sometimes people who have been here for a while, they just got here, they take things like this for granted. They don't know the fight. So just even, we weren't televised when we came down here. And then even after we had passed it, it was pushed back a year because they didn't want the Board of Aldermen. And then we were very popular, and we used to have a low number where people could find us, okay, Channel 16. And then it was pushed up under Francis Slay, the mayor, to a bigger number, which is harder for a lot of people to find. And I think that's horrible. I think that people ought to be able to see what we're doing. And then when we push to have committee hearings also televised and taped, there was a pushback about budget. But transparency and open government should, if the people cannot come down here and we're having things today, that the very least we ought to be able to do is to make sure that we have it televised so that they can see what's going on. So just wanted to see if we had provisions for, because I still call it Channel 16 because that's what it was when we came down here. But people from STLTV are always, for years, had to come to the Board of Aldermen for us to save them, because they were trying to cut it and make it short. So I just think that is something we don't want to do.
Yeah, no, Alderwoman, that was one of the changes we did make, was hearing from STLTV. I know we didn't get them exactly all the additional funds they wanted, but we were able to get them somewhere in the ballpark between $90,000 additional funds so that we wouldn't be in those positions. And I want to thank the Alderwoman from the 7th and the Alderman from the 14th, and there were several. Alderwoman Boyd was also very, very supportive of that. The whole committee was really wanting to make sure that our staff, as far as the STLT is concerned,
so my other
is
question,
compensated. My microphone does not appear to be working very well. So, no, thank you for bringing that point up, Alderwoman, and we did our best to eke out a little more budget for this STLTV staff who do an excellent job for us.
The other question I had you just touched upon was about the money that we put aside for the lawsuit. Because I guess we had anticipated, or we had already spent some of the money because we have been getting income that now has to be returned. And so did we put one lump sum in the budget for this lawsuit, or is this something that we are going to address over a number of years?
What was done, and you may remember, the Budget and Public Employees Committee invited the mayor and the administration to come before our committee and explain what we were expecting with regards to this lawsuit, and how we were planning on addressing it. They refused to come. And so the thought process they were really getting from the budget director and the way it was described to the committee and myself was that the $26 million is I would say, a estimate on what the cost of I would say what people can apply for as far as a refund is concerned, and what moving forward, the next year budget would include that whole for folks who, again, this is not the entire earnings tax, but folks who don't live in the city, work in the city, have employment in the city, but work remotely for part of that year and would be then considered eligible for a refund of part of their annual salary as a result of that working remotely. The $26 million is an estimate of what the result of that lawsuit could cost the city of St. Louis in this first year. I think there is some unknown. I don't know. I'm not abreast of the full calculations going into that $26 million. So I think at the end of this year, we'll have to evaluate what that looked like for this past year and then how we move forward. Of course, I think it depends on how many people from prior years go in and apply and request those refunds. I have spoken to several people who live in the county and are considering doing that, considering not doing that, for which I'm very grateful for the folks who are considered eligible but would consider just leaving that on the table, leaving those funds with the city, because we did provide services to the region. I mean, we have to remember that at the end of the day, we are the place where a majority of the cultural assets of our region reside, and people are able to access them, many of those resources and amenities for free, and we do provide the base level of city services, the streets, the lights, and the public safety components for our region to enjoy many of those amenities. And so it's expensive to do, and I'm hopeful that that $26 million was an estimate that is on the conservative side of things, as our budget director often is. But we'll have to reevaluate that at the end of this fiscal year.
So your answer is yes, we put $26 million up as a start. We don't know what the exact.
It's not, we didn't put it in a fund necessarily. I mean, it's a hole in the budget. So it's a contingency fund. And so, I mean, so if people are going in and requesting a refund of that would, make a hole in the budget, obviously. And then moving forward, that $26 million is really moving forward as far as what we would collect this year, as far as that revenue in the earnings tax line item would be concerned.
And as I understood, the mayor was invited, but also, since this wasn't really her decision, was the collector of revenue who made that decision, was he invited in? And to me, he would have had a better understanding of the amount that he brought in that shouldn't have been brought in. Have we ever invited him to?
That's correct. So at that time, the request from the committee was for the mayor, the administration, the collector of revenue, and the budget director to come and help us as a committee, the decision-making body for the city's budget, to discuss how we were approaching it, and then, of course, what we were doing as a city to consider alternatives for revenue moving forward. I did learn from the Post-Dispatch recently that the mayor has appointed or convening a committee to consider new revenue streams. And so look forward to continued news coverage of that body of citizens to inform us on what we might be doing, I suppose, moving forward.
So I didn't understand. So did the collector of revenue ever come to the committee meeting?
He did not, no.
I beg your pardon?
He did come for his budget, yes.
Yeah, but did he ever explain? Because to me, he should be able to know exactly who he collected money from that did not live in the city, and the potential. He should know a finite amount of the potential, because there would be, depending on how long ago you did this. I'm thinking that he started doing this during the pandemic. So it should be some kind of finite number that, or he should be able to give us something close to it.
Yeah, yeah. No, it was disappointing to not have some of that discussion on the front end, Alderwoman. So I share your frustration on that front. Yes.
Okay, and so.
But at the end of the day, excuse me, I'll just follow up and say, but at the end of the day, we are where we are right now, and I think at this point, you know, we have to just see, we'll just have to see, and I think we should be monitoring this moving forward. And so, I think as you bring up, it's sort of an unknown, and so as we move through this year, I think we should be. The committee should consider inviting the collector of revenue, who will be taking those applications for refunds in real time, and make sure that we have accounted for that appropriately and take any and all necessary actions if we adjust.
So I guess my other question is, as I understood the lawsuit, it only was particularly to the people who were part of that lawsuit, and that anybody else would maybe have to do class action or apply or get a lawyer and sue themselves. And so are we now, as you understand it, taking a position that if anybody was someone who money was taken from their checks and they didn't live in the city and worked outside the city, that we're just going to have an application process set up for them to return money? Is that what you understand, Madam Chair?
That's what I'm saying.
I think it's my understanding that as a result of that, the collector of revenue already has a portal, an application process for citizens to apply for refunds. So given that, I would say that the committee could invite the collector of revenue, should invite the collector of revenue to maybe give us updates as we move through this, how many people are applying for it, and how many people are granted that, and what we're kind of some live updates, because I think being prudent on that and making sure that we have accounted for that appropriately and accurately is part of our due diligence.
And that's why I will say that this was not the mayor's fault. This was the collective revenue. I've been around for when Ronald Leggett won a lawsuit. That's why I introduced my board bill, which I will be introducing again, along with some more about us getting rid of exemptions from the earnings tax. Everybody ought to pay their fair share, and especially since now we have had this big hit to us. That was a win for Ronald Leggett, and it was something that was not a win for current collective revenue. And so we need to look at every bit of everybody paying it, and we have done exemption after exemption over the years, and we need to close all those loopholes and everybody pay their fair share. I do know that you guys did. I watched a lot of the budget hearings. I know that most times the people who are at the Board of Aldermen, we do a good job with the budget trying to get to things. It's frustrating sometimes because you want to add things and you can't. And also it's presented to you and it's a real close timeline that you have to get it done, have to have a lot of meetings. And you learn a lot, though, when you sit on Ways and Means. I sat on Ways and Means several times when I first was a new alderperson. And by the time you really, really understand all of the stuff, it's time for it to be turned in. I don't vote for budgets out. I'm always a no on budgets because there's always a lot of stuff in there or some things in there that should not be in there. It's no indication to the members of the Board of Aldermen. It's indication to the budget director and the members of E&A, particularly the mayors who often put this budget, who do put this budget together, and they always keep their little pet projects in there. And if we're going to have a trim budget in which we took away money from North St. Louis, $7.6 million, and then we put back in things that we said we couldn't afford, I'm not going to vote for it. It's no indication about the work that you all did. It's an indication that I have not voted for a budget in, since I first did back in the 1990s. Because when I read the budget, I always see things that don't have a chance in hell of being removed. And we talk about what a trim budget we have. So I want to thank you for all your service and everything you did. I'm going to be asking for a roll call. And as is my tradition for a lot of years, I will be voting. Thank you.
Yeah.
Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Alderwoman from the 7th.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I just wanted to provide a little bit of clarity to the conversation that was had. In the budget process, I did do an amendment to add funds to St. Louis Television for overtime for their employees, because what happened, what you're talking about, where their shortage happened, we had run into a situation where they didn't have any more overtime funds for STL TV. And so we did have, I believe, a HUD's meeting, a public safety meeting back to back that we had to end by 5 o'clock, and we couldn't take our meetings into the community or into the evening time because of that shortage. But when they came before us, STL TV, like, really clearly outlined what their needs were that weren't in the budget. They asked for additional overtime. They asked for additional funding for software licenses of some sort. And then they also asked for additional funds for equipment, which I did an amendment to add it. The committee did support that amendment, and ENA did come back and add that to the budget.
Any further discussion? Alderman from the 14th.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the board. I just also want to echo and say thank you to the Budget Committee. I think I'm new to it, being on it the last 2 years, but I know the last 2 years we have really dived into this process and tried to make sure that there was some oversight from the Board of Aldermen. Even though it doesn't start with us, it starts with ENA. When we got the budget last session and this session, we really took the time to have every department come in to see what we can do to help. I think a lot of times people think here at the Board of Aldermen we're just the rubber stamp for the budget, but we're not. And I would say even this year we had the opportunity to make some increases. The Alderwoman from the 7 was able to put more money to SDO TV. I know Madam Chair was able to advocate, as well as Alderwoman from the 7, for our refuse workers and was able to move positions around. And then we was also, several amendments I had was also able to make sure our Circuit Attorney Gabe Gore got his 6 positions that he needs. So I want to thank our chairwoman. She thanked a lot of members and staff, and definitely Ms. Ora, who spent countless hours, and the clerk, the offsite meetings, but also thank our chairwoman for leading us in a direction where we was able to not just hear the budget, but make changes and really figure out ways that we could be a help. And I think this is a good budget that we have, where it's not just happening at ENA, but the Board of Aldermen has the ability to have input in that budget process. So that's all.
Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Yes. Alderman from the 3rd.
Thank you. Would the Alderwoman from the 12th yield to questions?
The Alderwoman from the 12th yield to questioning from the Alderman from the 3rd.
Yes, I will.
Alderman, you may proceed.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, Alderwoman. Alderwoman, you and I have had these discussions over the years with respect to the budget. I'm just curious, are you planning to vote for or against the budget today?
I said, per my long history, I will be voting no. None of the vote no's have been because of members of the Board of Aldermen. It was some other things.
Yeah. You and I have often voted no on these budgets for a variety of reasons. I'm currently at a place where I still have many concerns with respect to the basic city services that we are providing to our citizens. Can you recall a time where we've had discussions about this budget and the
I can recall many times.
Various departments, whether it's forestry, building, Parks and Rec?
I promised the Alderman from the, 5th, that I was going to keep my comments short. So I am trying to be a good person and keep my comments short, because I could spend up all our time talking about what I don't like with forestry, with streets, what things could be improved. But I'm just going to vote no and going about my merry way. And I think I already said it's not because the members of the Board of Aldermen, is because it's things that really could be improved and they don't try. It's also because we're supposed to get a yearly report from these departments that we don't get. It's because they don't respect the Board of Aldermen. Some of it is because we don't make them respect the Board of Aldermen. So I have my reasons, but because I want to talk about Fred Steffen and what a great person he was, I'm not going to get into all of it, but you and I have often voted no. And there are valid reasons for that. And that's what I said. I thought in a shorter version than what I'm saying now.
Thank you, Alderwoman. I appreciate that. And I do, for my purposes, I still, very much have concerns around, the funding that we provide to our building division in particular. It was shared at a committee hearing last session by the former commissioner that we don't do proactive inspections in the city of St. Louis.
Nope.
That is a tragedy. When we constantly talk about wanting to provide affordable quality housing to our constituents in the city of St. Louis, not having inspections and allowing buildings to decay and to deteriorate with no repercussions, no consequences, no follow-up is horrible. We're going to be sitting here 20 years from now talking about how we want more quality and affordable housing while we have more vacancies increasing around us every single day because people don't want to live next to these properties. We're going to continue to see a tax base that declines. 60% of the revenue that comes in from real estate taxes goes to St. Louis public schools. We constantly talk about how we want to support our public schools, and we talk about that in the framework of reforming incentives. But the strongest and best thing that we can do as a legislative body is to support our building division and have them hold these property owners to account to increase the property values in our city, or to at least maintain them and keep them, prevent them from deteriorating. That is the best possible way, given that 60% of those taxes go directly to our students, our young people. That is the best possible way that we can support St. Louis public schools. And we're not doing it. Every year that I've been down here, we talk about this budget as a value proposition, a value statement. And I also want to commend my colleagues for all of their time, their energy, their effort on this budget. To be perfectly candid, and I've had this discussion with the president, one of the reasons I didn't request to be on budget is having been down here for 15 years, understand that basically 2 months of your life disappears because you're in meetings constantly, having those discussions with the various budget director and department heads and other entities. And so I respect the work that you all have done, I really do. But I have to vote no today only for the facts that I've outlined below. There's others, there are plenty others that I can get into. But I think one of the things that I hear most frequently from constituents when I'm talking to them on the phone or knocking on their door is about trash. It's about vacant buildings. It's about public safety. It's about the illegal dumping in our alleyway, the grass that's overgrown, the trees that are falling down. And I really want to make sure that we continue to put our effort and attention towards solving those issues for our citizens as well. I do want to just make sure that I recognize the work that goes into this, but make clear why I'm voting today. Thank you.
Alderman from the 4th.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I also just want to thank everyone who worked on this budget. I know it takes an incredible toll to put the amount of hours in that you have to do that. I have one major concern here. It's the same concern that I've had over and over and over. We've taken what city employees had was typically a 3% cost of living raise. That's been reduced to 1%. And we've increased healthcare costs. Over and over, every neighborhood association meeting I go to, every ward meeting I go to, every time I'm out in the community talking to people, and the issues they bring up, they all revolve back to one thing, and that's manpower issues here in the city. Whether it's first responders, refuse, streets, forestry, the building division, the water division, on and on down the line, we just don't have enough manpower to do these things. And then we go and we essentially give these people a pay cut with this budget. It makes zero sense to me that we would tell the people who are putting their butts on the line day in and day out and working their fingers to the bone that sorry, things are a little bit more expensive this year, so actually you're going to make 3% less this year than you did last year. That's not a slight on the work of the committee. As the alderman from the third noted, these are it's essentially a moral document, and I've always pushed that we need to be paying city workers more if we're going to attract and maintain a vibrant workforce here in the city. This document today tells me that that's not where we're not putting our money where our mouth is right now, in a very literal sense. And so I know that we need to pass a budget, and this is just not a budget that I can get behind at the moment, given the fact that everyone who works for the city is getting a pay cut under this budget. And that's just not appropriate at this time for me. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Alderwoman from the 7th.
Thank you, Madam President. I just wanted to add that I really do agree with most of the sentiments that you all have shared. This was my second time serving on budget, and what's really interesting to me is honestly, all of the departments have very similar issues. They have very similar complaints. We're understaffed. We're not equipped to do the work that we need to do. And I think at this moment in time, there's a bit of tension because you have a board of aldermen that I think is very interested in transforming and not doing what we have always done before. But then you have departments who, I mean, if we want them to do more, we have to be able to give them more. Something that I took note of and talked a lot about during budget season, and honestly, all of our colleagues talked about is just the things that were kind of above the budget of committee to look at. We were limited to just cuts and minuses, but when we're limited to just ads, but when I would have conversations with departments, for example, the building division, the commissioner shared with me that we've lost hundreds of thousands of dollars in funds due to the city not being able to keep up with our permitting. We don't have enough staff anymore to look at permits, and so we're not able to get them out in a timely manner, which is leading to us missing out on money. And I know Alderman Cone mentioned the building division being underfunded. And what particularly he said, it's very difficult for me to get staff to fill these positions because I need architects and engineers who are used to coming out making six figures. And even in other public sector jobs, even in neighboring municipalities, they can go and make more. They would have to take a cut here. That would actually really echo the same sentiments that the budget person for the police department came before us and said, I'm bleeding out and I'm losing officers because folks can go over to the neighboring municipality and make another $15,000, $20,000 versus if they come here, they make less money. I think also officers have come to my office hours and shared with me that if they have a child while they're on their health insurance, it goes up to $600, $800 a month versus other municipalities, it's much less. And so I guess really what I wanted to put on the record is I think that there really does need to be an in-depth look at our budget, some of the things that are kind of above the Board of Aldermen maybe, but really considering changing the pay structure. Like we talked about the fact that the police department has a 30-step matrix, which doesn't really make sense because most police officers don't have careers that go on for 30 years. If you compare that to St. Louis County or other municipalities, you would notice that a lot of them have 15-step matrices. And so there are a lot of things that I was able to learn this year in budget session that I think just there needs to be a holistic look, especially because because departments are saying that they are bleeding out, that they are not just struggling to keep the staff that they have, but every year they're having less and less staff to do what they need to do. And so I think there needs to be some conversation. Perhaps we need to look at, I know one of the things that the city does is we do we do the pension is why a lot of people come. They're kind of attracted to the pension. But I think in a city where also we know we kind of need to revitalize our workforce and get youth workers, maybe perhaps we should look at their pay. Maybe that's what needs to come in. Perhaps we need to look at all of the money that we have that we know goes into the vacant positions. And I understand that vacant positions go back into infrastructure improvements, but I would rather us have employees that are paid and us able to have fully staffed rather than the money sitting in vacant positions and then going back into the budget. So I just wanted to share some of these notes and some of these things that I learned as someone who sat for all the months this time and all the months last time and learned all these things, that if we were to really listen to our departments, I think a lot of them know their struggles, they know their challenges, they've identified when they came before us, they knew what they needed. And I would even say that a lot of times the money is there within their budgets, but the way that it is allocated is not right. And obviously changing that requires work with the Civil Service Commission, and then there's unions, and so it has to be a larger conversation. But I certainly think we're at a point where the city needs to be having these larger conversations, and we need to be looking at seriously, not just saying we don't want to continue the status quo and not just saying that we see all the problems that are happening, but like, what are we going to do and what is the plan, and be willing to try something new, because in a lot of instances, the worst that we could do is fail in a new way. So I would really just encourage, when the budget conversations that happen before it gets to us, before it gets to the Board of Aldermen, I would encourage those conversations to be a bit more on a transformative level. I would encourage the unions and different entities who represent employees to really take a deep dive in department heads about why are we losing staff? Why are we losing capacity? Because I would certainly echo what, a lot of my colleagues have said, that folks at home, they want to call 911 and they want to get an answer and they want an officer to come. They want their trash to be picked up. They want their communities to be clean. Certainly we can see the result of not having active building inspectors. I deal several times with businesses who are trying to operate and go through our processes. I have to follow up department heads. Hey, have you seen this permit request? Has this person reached out to you? And it's just kind of created this system that's not really working for anybody. And in order for it to get to work in rare times, you often need to have a direct relationship with the political individual, which is a clear sign of an ineffective system. I'm still going to vote for the budget today because I do understand that we had some other challenges to come up this year. But I do want to just put into the ecosystem that I hope that we will all, whoever might be missing, whatever we could do as a budget committee as we continue to really get people to talk differently about how we're allocating dollars, because I don't think that we're making the best use of money. And I know to use it a little differently is sometimes scary to folks, but it's really not working. I think constituents are not happy. A lot of folks, department heads, staff, and I'm not necessarily putting the onus on any one group of people, because it seems like this is what we've been doing for a long time. But, population decline was mentioned. It's a result of continuing to do things the way we've been doing them. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Alderwoman from the 8th.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I want to just speak to a couple things that were mentioned here a little bit on the issue of pay raises and the fact that when we're keeping them steady without increasing them. This is a really important point, one that we should be taking very seriously across the board, not just for pay raises. The amount of money we're putting into pothole repair, the amount of money we're putting into streetlight repair. As we move forward, all the cost of everything is going up across the board. And when we are failing to keep up with the cost of inflation for cost of goods and for pay for our employees, the purchasing power is going down. And that is the same for everything. And it is the result is a shrinking ability to do anything with those funds. And so I agree with the alderman from the 4th on this. In the budget process, I think it's nearly impossible to address something like that. It would require a whole new pay schedule. This was not put before us. Fortunately, when it comes to that budget, as we all know, we have the authority to cut. We don't have the authority to add. We were able to make significant requests of adding to the Board of ENA, but handling something like that would be nearly impossible for the Board of Aldermen to undertake. But I take your point on that, and I think the direct result of that is a 30% vacancy across city departments, which we're seeing, the result of that play out in potholes and falling down buildings and in trash collection. And this is a major problem. So I agree with you and stand with you in that priority, but recognize that we, in our committee capacity in the Board of Aldermen, would have a very difficult time doing it. I want to also address the building division. I agree entirely on this front. Again, it's going to be difficult for us to deal with those kinds of things from a structural perspective. One of the things that we did point out and discuss at length in committee was that the building division, in my opinion, not only we have failed to grow it, but we have saddled the building division with even more responsibility this year and given them less resources. We've asked them to undertake and take on regulation of Airbnb, and we have given them no additional staff to do that. So the result of that is going to compound itself, because not only do we not have additional staffing for them to do the business of the building division as it is, we're giving them additional significant responsibility and no resources to undertake it. We passed legislation down here to regulate the Airbnb industry without giving the building division required and necessary funding for software to even be able to handle that on the front end, really putting them in a very unfortunate position, putting all of us, putting the city in an unfortunate position, because we've told our constituents that we would start regulating an industry, and we had really no ability to do that. I share your concerns on that. I think that a failure to do proactive investigating, proactive inspections is enormously problematic and plays out in neighborhoods like the one my colleague represents, and neighborhoods that we all represent. I mean, we see this time and time again, problematic landlords. Many of them, they're in the paper, they are terrorizing our communities, and without that enforcement piece, it is extremely difficult to see an end in sight to taking advantage of our lax building laws. We have a lot of out-of-town investors that are parking their money in the city of St. Louis because it's easy to do, and there's almost there's an inadequate amount of enforcement on these things. I share your concerns on that. Having a proposal to do that work, to have a real dedicated department, internal department for Airbnb regulation, for proactive investigations, is something that needs to be handled from an administrative side of things. And to handle it purely in the budget, I think, would create a scenario that would could potentially allot funding, but result in failure. Again, currently under our current charter, we don't have the ability to add those funds anyway. But regardless, I want you to know that we did discuss it, Alderman. It was an issue. It is an issue, and I appreciate you bringing it before this full body and the public to recognize that it is a big hole, and a meaningful lacking in investment on the part of the enforcement of our built environment, which is what I would argue one of our more important assets as a community next to our people. But with that, we often are only able to really get things done at the margins. It is difficult to make amendments, but I do commend the efforts of the committee. The additional staff for the Circuit Attorney's Office, I think, will make a big difference. He came before us. He's really making some big strides in his department. I'm proud that we're able to get him those 6 additional staff members. We're going to staff up a diversion program that our circuit attorney believes in, that I believe in, that I think we can all believe in, can be effective in diverting folks from a life that is harmful to our community and to themselves, and one that can be more productive. And I hope that in the future we can put our city off this path of decline onto a path of growth, so that we can start making positive investments in things like a more robust building division, making smart investments that can protect the assets that we have and move our city forward. And with that, I want to ask for your favorable consideration on Board Bill number 1 as amended.
It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 8th, seconded by the Alderman from the 14th, that we perfect Board Bill number 1 as amended. There's been a request for roll call. Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Schweitzer. Alderman Oldenburg. Alderman Cone.
No.
Alderman Narayan. No. Alderman Balmer.
Aye.
Alderwoman Velazquez.
Aye.
Alderwoman Sanye. Alderwoman Spencer.
Aye.
Alderman Browning.
Aye.
Alderwoman Clark Hubbard. Alderwoman Keys. Alderwoman Tyus.
No.
Alderwoman Boyd.
Aye.
Alderman Aldridge.
Aye.
President Green.
Aye.
Alderman Oldenburg. Alderwoman Keys.
Present.
10 aye votes, 3 no votes, and 1 voted present.
By your vote, you sustain the motion from the Alderwoman from the 8th to perfect Board Bill number 1 as amended. Report of engrossment.
Board Bill 24.
Third reading and final passage of Board Bills consent.
Board Bill 24.
Alderwoman from the 10th, you are recognized on the motion to adopt the third reading and final passage of Board Bills on the consent calendar.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I move that we adopt the third reading and final passage of Board Bills consent calendar.
It's been moved from the Alderwoman from the 10th, seconded by the Alderwoman from the 7th, that we adopt the third final passage of Board Bills on the consent calendar. Is there any discussion? Alderman from the 3rd.
Thank you, Madam President. I just want to acknowledge that on the perfection consent calendar, that's what we're on, right?
No, we're on
Oh,
third reading
sorry,
and final
I'm on
passage.
perfection consent. I lost my place. Never mind. Thank you.
Not a problem. So it's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 10th, seconded by the Alderwoman from the 7th, that we adopt the third reading and final passage of Board Bills on the consent calendar. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Schweitzer. Aye. Alderman Oldenburg. Alderman Cone.
Aye.
Alderman Narayan.
Aye.
Alderman Balmer.
Aye.
Alderwoman Velazquez.
Aye.
Alderwoman Sanye. Alderwoman Spencer. Alderman Browning.
Aye.
Alderwoman Clark Hubbard. Alderwoman Keys.
Aye.
Alderwoman Tyus. Alderwoman Boyd.
Aye.
Alderman Aldridge.
Aye.
President Green.
Aye.
Alderman Oldenburg. Alderwoman Spencer. 13 aye votes.
By your vote, you have sustained the motion from the Alderwoman from the 10th to third read and finally pass the aforementioned bills. We can dispense with line item 18B, report if finally passed and signed by the President.
Board Bill 24.
All other business being suspended, the President shall in open session affix her signature hereto to the end that these may become law. Right. First reading of resolutions. Aldermen from the 4th, you are recognized on the suspension of the rules for the purposes of introducing resolution number 77.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I move that we suspend the rules to introduce resolution number 77.
There is second.
Second.
It's been moved by the Alderman from the 4th, seconded by the Alderwoman from the 12th, that we suspend the rules for the purposes of introducing resolution 77. This is a non-debatable motion. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Schweitzer. Alderman Oldenburg. Alderman Cone.
Aye.
Alderman Narayan. Alderman Balmer.
Aye.
Alderwoman Velazquez.
Aye.
Alderwoman Sanye. Alderwoman Spencer. Alderman Browning,
Aye.
Alderwoman Clark Hubbard, Alderwoman Keys,
Aye.
Alderwoman Tyus, Alderwoman Boyd,
Aye.
Alderman Aldridge, President Green,
Aye.
Alderman Oldenburg, Alderwoman Spencer. 11 aye votes and 2 voted present.
By your vote, you sustain the motion from the Alderman from the 4th. If you could please place Resolution 77 at the end of first reading of resolutions.
So noted.
First reading resolutions in reference to committees.
Resolution 74, sponsored by Alderman Aldridge. The Board of Aldermen recognizes the impact and importance of having proficient literacy rates.
Alderman from the 14th, you're recognized on the first reading of Resolution 74.
Thank you, Madam President. Members of the board, I ask for unanimous consent on Resolution 74.
Hearing no objection, you may proceed.
Thank you, Madam President. Members of the board, Resolution 74 is in front of us all on our desk. Again, it's just talking about the impacts and the importance of making sure that our young kids from kindergarten to 12th grade have proficient literacy reading. And at the Board of Aldermen, we call on our state government to continue to try to pass legislation that will help our kids, no matter if they're in public, charter, wherever they are, to be able to have proficient literacy reading. A lot of our young scholars who are going to be the next future of the city of St. Louis, we know when it comes to reading and math, some of them are behind a little bit. So this is just a push from the board saying that we do recognize how important it is to make sure everything that we can do, make sure our young kids are on a proficient literacy rate. Of course, we can't really pass any legislation when it comes to SLPS, but I think, you know, being able to pass resolutions and say that we stand with our young people when it comes to literacy rates is just one way that we can have our voices heard. With that, I close.
Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, it's been moved by the Alderman, sorry, I think Alderman from the 14th. I'm not sure you actually made a motion to adopt.
I'll make a motion to adopt resolution number 74.
It's been moved by the Alderman from the 14th, seconded by the Alderwoman from the 10th, that we adopt resolution number 74. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Resolution 67, sponsored by Alderman Balmer, Alderwoman Tyus, and Alderwoman Clark Hubbard, honoring Mr. Fred Steffen.
Alderman from the 5th, you are recognized on the first reading of resolution 67.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. Mr. Fred Steffen, who passed away.
Request unanimous
I'm sorry,
consent.
sorry, request unanimous consent. I've never done this for a courtesy resolution before, I don't believe.
Hearing no objection, you may proceed.
All right. Mr. Fred Steffen, who passed away on the 12th, and we buried last week, he is and was a foundation of the city of St. Louis. Born and raised, he actually passed away in the same house he grew up in. He attended all the local schools, Catholic schools near his neighborhood. He served 20 years as a fireman, plus years, and he served 20 years down here at the board as a clerk. And he was all around probably the nicest soul that ever walked the face of the earth. And for his time here, I thought we deserved to do that. I believe Alderwoman Tyus has requested. Sharita, if you would please read the resolution. Thank you.
Resolution 67, honoring Mr. Fred F. Steffens. Whereas it's with great sorrow that the members of the Board of Aldermen of the City of St. Louis recognize the passing of our dear friend, former staff member, and dedicated citizen, Mr. Fred F. Steffen, on June 12, 2024. Whereas Mr. Steffen was first entered our great city on January the 26th, 1936, forever changing all the surrounding with his smile. He attended grade school at St. John Baptist and high school at St. Mary's, then going to serve our country in U.S. Army. Whereas once back in civilian life, he became a proud public servant, first with the St. Louis City Fire Department for more than 20 years. Whereas upon retirement, he felt compelled to serve in another capacity, becoming administrative assistant to the board president, Thomas E. Zich, in September of 1982. His solid performance led him to attaining the position of the clerk of the full Board of Aldermen, where he served honorably until December 31st, 2001. Whereas during his time, he was known for his professionalism, promptness, and solid work ethic, as well as keeping all City Hall well supplied with candies, cookies, and cakes. Throughout all of this, he also served as the Democratic committeeman to the old 13th Ward. Whereas upon his second retirement, still feeling the need to serve, he worked as a consultant to the Anheuser-Busch Brewery as well as St. Louis Cardinals. His passing leaves a huge hole in the fabric of our city. The knowledge and history he takes with him is irreplaceable, as well as his kindness, understanding, generosity, and all-around good nature, creating an atmosphere where you were in his presence, you couldn't help but be happy. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Board of Aldermen of the City of St. Louis that we pause in our deliberation to acknowledge the many contributions and achievements of Mr. Fred F. Steffen, and by the adoption of this resolution, send our condolences to his family and wish to join all others celebrating his life and accomplishments. We further direct the clerk of the board to spread a copy of this resolution across the minutes of these proceedings and prepare a commemorative copy to the end that it might be presented at a time and place deemed appropriate by the sponsor. Introduced this 21st day of June 2024 by the Honorable Joseph Vollmer, Alderman of the 5th Ward, the Honorable Sharon Tyus, Alderwoman of the 13th Ward, and Shameen Clark Hubbard, Alderwoman of the 10th Ward.
All right, thank you very much, Sharita. With that, I will yield to Alderwoman Tyus from the 12th Ward.
Woman from the 12th, you're recognized.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I feel really honored to be here. I guess I'm the only person that served with Fred as the clerk. Were you here when, no, because he left before you got here. So besides the current clerk, I'm the only person here who actually served when Fred was the clerk of the Board of Aldermen. When you're very new and you come to a situation, I was not in politics, and you come down to this esteemed board, you need somebody who will help guide you. You will all remember who helped you as you travel in your career or as you traverse your career. Fred Steffen was that person who would do anything to help you learn what your job was. When I hear about in the resolution about his kindness, he was a kind person. He was always in good spirits, always had good things to say about people. I asked that the resolution be taken off of the consent calendar because I didn't think that we should let this pass without speaking about him and what a great person he was. He was the committeeman of the 13th Ward. He was a sexist because he would always tell me that my committee was the boss of the real 20th Ward, and that was my husband. And so he gave him a little plaque that said the real boss of the ward. So I say that, Fred Steffen. I loved Fred Steffen. He was a great person. I had occasion at one time that I was racing to introduce some legislation, and at that time we didn't have email, but we had a fax machine, and you had to be first to introduce the legislation. So me and my group of married people, we came down to the Board of Aldermen at 11:59. We put it under the clerk's door. We faxed it in, and we actually appeared at Fred's house and handed it to him, and he was a good sport about it, and he laughed really hard because we did get that legislation introduced first. But I just have so many kind memories of him, and I didn't want any of you not to know how important it is to have somebody who is kind and good and cared about you. I know the alderman from the 5th knew him much more personally than I did, but I felt like I knew him for the years that we served together, and I'm very thankful that he was here to help us guide. And we were all very sad when he said he was going to retire. Watched when his wife died, his first wife died, and went through that with him. And so just wanted to take a time to ask us to, I know we did a moment of silence, but to do some joy about the fact that we were in the presence of Fred Steffen and we got to serve with him.
All right. Will you yield it back to me, please?
I will yield it back to you.
I don't speak that much down here, but I have to tell you the story because if it wasn't for Fred, I would not be an alderman. He hung out in my tavern a whole lot. He and my father were the best of friends. I've known him since I was a kid. And when conversation came to me wanting to be an alderman, or people wanting me to be an alderman, I didn't know that I wanted to be. He, being the veteran of City Hall and my father's best friend, took my wife aside because she was concerned what it would do to our lives. And these are Freddie's exact words: Susie, it won't affect your life at all. They only meet on Fridays for 20 minutes, and they take the whole summer off. It's a piece of cake. It'll be like you've never left your house. And 22 years later, here I am. So God bless you, Fred. I love you. Thank you.
Any further discussion to Alderman of the 4th, and then I'll go down the line.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. It sounds like he was a heck of a guy. I would move that we make this resolution in bank.
Second.
It's been moved by the Alderman from the 4th, seconded by the Alderwoman from the 10th, that we make resolution number 67 in bank. Is there any discussion?
It was the Alderwoman from the 6th.
Sorry, it was the Alderwoman from the 6th that seconded rather than the Alderwoman from the 10th. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Any further discussion? Alderwoman from the 1st.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I really been made in bank. Fred came from the area that I represented as the 13th Ward alderperson, and while I didn't know him well, in South City politics, you know, the kind of nostalgia and the responsibility and just the knowledge base that the committee people have had over the years and the influence that they've made in the neighborhood. A lot of people talk to me about Fred and remember him and all that he did for the ward and the neighborhood and the city in general. So I'm sure that he'll be part of my career in this, you know, neighborhood in this area for as long as I am around, because you just can't go very long without having him. So I really appreciate all that he did and the legacy that he left of service. So thank you very much.
Alderman from the 3rd.
Thank you, Madam President. I did not have the distinct honor of being an alderperson and serving with Fred while he was clerk, but I did have the privilege of being able to work with him. And when I first got elected 15 years ago, he was actually, I went to his services earlier this week, and there were a few resolutions, and one of them, there's a line in here that I really appreciated. Whereas since his retirement as clerk of the Board of Aldermen, Fred has returned to the corridors of City Hall as a high-profile, arm-twisting consultant for local sports and beverage concerns. And he did represent those interests when I first came down here, and probably many more, actually. And he was just as open and honest and genuine and provided insight and learning to someone who was very new at this body. And I quickly learned, you know, that he was someone that you could get along with and ask questions of. And at the time we had the illustrious David W. Sweeney as our clerk of the board, after a little bit of drama around some previous clerks and motions and movements that happened in that office. But similar situations as the Alderwoman from the 1st. We were still submitting board bills at all hours of the day, even right up until right before the meeting, even though probably out of compliance with Missouri Sunshine statutes at that point in time. But Fred was always a just jovial person and full joy, and had a great sense of humor about him, which is probably why he said that Sterling is the boss in that ward. I think any of us that know you and Sterling know the truth, Alderwoman. But he just had such a wonderful presence and sense of humor about him, and he will be greatly missed. And his contributions to the city I'm very grateful that you pulled this off of the consent calendar because I think it's important for us to acknowledge that. So thank you, Fred, for all of your service to our city in various forms, and Godspeed.
Any further discussion? Any further discussion? It's been moved by the Alderwoman from, moved by the Alderman from the 5th, seconded. Actually, I don't think you actually did motion to adopt, now that I'm looking at my notes here. Sorry.
I'm just taking my time. You know, we've been here for 2+ hours, so she's sitting too close to me. She's rubbing off on me. I move that we adopt Resolution 67.
Second.
It's been moved by the Alderman from the 5th, seconded by the Alderman from the 3rd, that we adopt Resolution 67. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Resolution 77, sponsored by Alderman Ryan, requesting an audit by the Missouri State Auditor.
Alderman from the 4th, you are recognized on Resolution 77.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I wouldn't normally do this, but given that the state's preliminary investigation is done, in order to protect whistleblowers, I'd like to request unanimous.
There's been an objection to unanimous consent. Alderman, you can either send to committee or ask to suspend the rule.
Thank you, Madam President. Again, in order to protect whistleblowers here, I'd like to move.
There's been a motion to suspend the rules for the purposes of forwarding resolution number 77 today. There was a second by Alderman from the 2nd. This is a non-debatable motion. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Schweitzer. Aye. Alderman Oldenburg. Alderman Cone.
No.
Alderman Ryan. Aye. Alderman Balmer.
Aye.
Alderwoman Velazquez.
Aye.
Alderwoman Sanye. Alderwoman Spencer.
Aye.
Alderman Browning.
Aye.
Alderwoman Clark Hubbard.
Aye.
Alderwoman Keys.
Aye.
Alderwoman Tyus.
Aye.
Alderwoman Boyd. Alderman Aldridge. President Green.
Aye.
Alderwoman Boyd. 11 aye votes and 3 no votes.
By your vote, you sustain the motion. From the Alderman from the 4th. Alderman from the 4th, you may.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. It's come to light that there have been several whistleblower complaints against a city department. The whistleblower statute, the state statute, allows the state auditor to perform preliminary investigations, but not a full audit unless this body or a citizen petition process goes through. So this body can request a full audit. I think we have an obligation when there are whistleblower complaints and the state auditor comes in and says that, you know, it appears that there's some impropriety. I believe that we have an obligation to allow the state to look further into that. I take no joy in this, and I would ask that we move this forward and allow the state auditor to do his job. And my hope is that there is nothing substantiated from these complaints. I don't want to get into the specifics. In fact, I specifically requested to not know the specifics so that I don't know. I have no idea what they are. I know that the state has come in and they've said that there are credible allegations here. And I think that that is enough for us to move on. And I ask for your support in this. Thank you.
Would you like to make a motion to adopt?
I do move that we adopt. Yes, thank you.
Is there a second on that motion to adopt?
Second.
It's been moved by the Alderman from the 4th, seconded by the Alderwoman from the 12th, that we adopt Resolution 77. Any further discussion? Alderman from the 14th.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. Will the Alderman from the 4th yield for questions?
The Alderman from the 4th yield to questionings from the Alderman from the 14th.
I will.
Thank you, Alderman. And I also agree with you on if there is some complaints, we definitely want to look into it. I know there's a document that was also provided to us from the auditor saying that they did do an investigation and that they didn't find any necessarily wrongdoings when it comes financially and some things that we may have been out of order with charter. But my question is, because this is going to cost the city of St. Louis taxpayers, do you know how much this audit is going to cost for the city to pay for this?
It really depends on how in-depth the auditor needs to go. Anytime that you do an audit, there are unknown unknowns, and my hope is that getting out ahead of this sooner rather than later helps to limit some of those costs. I know that doing an audit of the entire city costs between 1.2 and 1.7 million dollars. There's 50 some odd departments in the city. This is one department that we're taking a look at, or proposing to take a look at. So, I guess we could deduce from just kind of mathematics there, but I don't know the scope of this. Once the auditor starts to look at these allegations that the whistleblowers have put forward, we basically pay the costs of the state workers doing their work. There's not like a markup. It's not like we pay big law firms to come in and big auditors or anything. It's a state department who has already carried out a preliminary investigation and has said that their preliminary investigation has turned up some issues of noncompliance, and either we're a society with rules or we aren't. And I don't think that this body should be gatekeeping who we say that
So
the
just quickly, Alderman,
if we're looking at it.
I hear you, but to the question, you don't know how much it's going to cost us.
The alderman from the fifth says 17,500. No, I don't know. I don't think there's any way to know at this point the exact dollar figure that it's going to cost. It's going to depend on the number of people and the amount of time it takes them.
Okay, I'll yield for the moment.
Any further? Alderwoman from the 12th.
Madam President, members of the board, we won't know the full amount, but we do know that there's already been a preliminary investigation. Why I'm supporting this is because I know some of the specifics of the whistleblower, and some of them are not wrong. Some of them are probably not intentional, but they're not wrong, okay? I also know that if you're going to look at it, also look at the previous administration. So that's what I want to see happen. Don't just stop at who's the personnel director right now. Let's do a good look. There's never a problem with us looking at departments and finding out if something is wrong. It doesn't have to be criminal. They can be, oftentimes they are inadvertent, and you need to get them on the correct path so that we are doing it the correct way. So it will not be, as he said, it cost over $1 million for all of the city. This is one department. It should be investigated. Whistleblowers have to be protected, and they have to feel like that if they come forward with something, that they're not going to get repercussions. So, but saying all of that, I'm hoping that they do a deep dive into their personnel, because there was somebody before there that also would have some issues also. I was the chair of public employees for a while when we had that committee, and I started to find out some of those things then. So I don't think this is going to be a bad investigation. And if with the auditor, they give you the guidance about what you should be doing differently. So I don't see a problem with this. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Alderman from the 3rd.
Thank you, Madam President. I want to make sure that before we vote on this, that we do have an opportunity to have a discussion with the Director of Personnel is here. Unfortunately, due to the format of our meetings, we're unable to have that public discussion with her. I don't necessarily object to having an audit. I agree that if there are whistleblower concerns, we need to address those and allow for that process to take place. I also believe that we should be able to have that discussion publicly and also determine whether or not we do have at least an estimate in terms of the cost of an audit before we place that burden on our taxpayers as well. I don't see the issue with putting this in committee and having a meeting on it next week and then passing this out. That would be my preference, certainly before voting on this. But I mean, obviously the alderman can move forward with whatever he would like to do. I just think that it's prudent and responsible to at least have those conversations and try to have some sense of the cost of it before we move forward.
Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Alderwoman from the 7th.
I would echo what the alderman of the 3rd Ward said. I do, I was able to do a little research when I saw this today and kind of do what I could to gather some information. I think the struggle for me is I would have preferred for just like as a courtesy, I think the director of personnel maybe could have been notified, or even I would have had notification today. Besides it just being on my desk when coming in, there was no previous conversation with myself. I don't know who else you might have had conversations with, Alderman Ryan, but I didn't know about this. So I'm definitely, don't disagree with a audit. I do think it's important that whistleblowers do have protection as those investigations go, but I also do think, just out of courtesy to those involved, sometimes a little bit of notice and not finding out as soon as you walk in that, that this happens. I know we have a lot going on, but I think that would be the way to do it. And I also think if there are issues that have been going on for a long time, it still might be worthy, even if we do vote this resolution through, because obviously I understand the importance of making sure that we're not stopping any work from happening, but it might be worth a conversation in general, and it might be something for budget and public employees to talk about. It seems like there's a pattern and a trend of just some issues and some general complaints. We don't have to have them in a specific regard to any specific instances, but I think that it's always something that's worthy of making sure we're doing what we can to let the public know where we are and of some of the things. I know we have information on our side, but a lot of times the public doesn't have ours. So I would echo Alderman Cohn's ask. I would love to have the conversation in committee and to give the director of personnel a chance to come before us, but I do understand your intentions as well, Alderman Ryan. I think for me, the tricky part is if I would have had any notice, I would have even just made a phone call on my end to give some notice and, hey, just so you know, this is going to come up, this is going to be on our agenda to discuss, and been able to have some conversation with you as well about the resolution.
Alderman from the 14th.
I won't keep us long because we got DFOB and I'm going to be bringing those separately. But I do also want to echo, the comments of the Alderwoman from the 7th and 3rd. Alderman, we do have the opportunity to suspend rules to introduce board bills. We did that to do resolutions. And I think usually when that's done, it's probably on some non-controversial. I don't think it's controversial that anybody at this board is against saying that we protect whistleblowers. But we were, there was no information granted to you. I don't know when you found out. I know this wasn't on the tentative agenda or anything like that. So I don't know when you decided that you pull the trigger on this, which is important. But I think, conversations with colleagues just saying, hey, this is a heads up, because this is something that we're going to be asked from, maybe potentially the media in the room, or just people who's watching back at home, like what is happening? What is the audit? Why are we auditing? How much is going to cost? And we have, none of that information, let alone the ability for the personnel director to be able to speak. I also echo, I think it's nothing to rush. We got resolutions that are sitting in committee, that have been sitting in committee that haven't even had a hearing on them. So I think this is something that could easily go to budget and public employees for at least a process to work out. I don't, even if an audit happens, it's going to take some time. So I just would kind of request not to rush this and be, make sure we have all the answers, at least especially financially wise, of what it potentially could be to cost the city, as we're already losing some money when it comes to potential earnings tax. I think it's smart for us to be financially smart on what we're doing and not just, you know, making sure we support workers, but just being smart in the way that we do. And I definitely think that without you talking to your colleagues, it'd probably be good to send this to committee so that we can have more conversations about it. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Alderwoman from the 6th.
Thank you. I feel like I'm echoing a lot of my colleagues. I think there's a couple things. I mean, I know that I think it is important. I think it's also important for us to realize in the same way that we talked about budgets being a moral document that the idea, obviously we want to be good stewards of our money here, but also that protecting whistleblowers there's also the how in the process that we do that. And I think that is what Alderman Ryan is trying to do today. So I just want to say that we should be thinking of that just as much as doing the right thing, in addition to, you know, trying to equate it to a budget. I think it's about doing the right thing in this case. So, thank you.
Any further discussion? Alderwoman from the 10th.
Thank you, Madam President. Members of the board, will the from the 4th yield to question?
Alderman from the 4th yield to questioning from the Alderwoman from the 10th.
I will.
Okay, thank you, Alderman. So I just referencing and even going back on the meeting today, right? We heard people reference about transparency and the openness, the importance of committee and the discussion and how that's the only place that our constituents have the opportunity to participate in this process, as well as here in the case of this, our personnel director. But I'm lost on how this is negative, or what is the jeopardy in having it in committee against the whistleblower clause. And I'm getting questions. So I wanted to, you have an opportunity to explain it. And I just shared that I know that Alderwoman Spencer, because I just asked her, is amenable to having a hearing. I know the director amenable to coming to the hearing. So if you can explain that, not just for me, but for the listeners, again, then that would help me.
Sure. So I want to be clear here. We are not the ones who would be conducting this audit. So bringing anyone in front of a committee to question them, that would necessarily get into the specific allegations, which could out a whistleblower. Additionally, since we're not the ones conducting the investigation, we don't know how deep it may go. So that would still leave the cost piece as unknown, even in a committee hearing. So any committee hearing that we would have, I would bring this into, and I would tell the committee, I'm unwilling to get into the specific allegations here, and we don't know how much it's going to cost. So nothing changes. This allows the state auditor to do his job, and this protects whistleblowers. And this body has spoken at length in the past about protecting whistleblowers. Now we have an opportunity to do so, and I'm going to continue pushing the way that I can to try and protect the people who brought forward allegations against people much more powerful than them, rather than try to play auditor when we are not the ones doing this. There's already been an investigation, a preliminary investigation. A letter regarding that investigation is here. It says that there are issues, potential instances of noncompliance with charter, ordinance, civil service rules, and that they can't move further on it unless there's a citizen petition or it's requested by the Board of Aldermen. And I, as an alderman, certainly want to make sure that all city departments play by the rules, including this, and including the Board of Aldermen here. And so I intend to push forward with this. We all have our own vote. And if it ends up in committee, that's where it ends up. I think it'd be repetitive because I've just told you everything that I will say about it in committee. But I think it's important that we move forward with this and let the state auditor do their job.
Thank you so much for that explanation. That is what I wanted to hear, right? And I wanted to give you an ample opportunity to share that to the public, not just for myself, again, for others. I haven't brought up anything about the cost of it because, again, that's not important to me. I think protecting people is the most important piece as we move forward, and it's our responsibility, quite frankly. I know the audit that's already placed. I know that we are not the auditors. I know that we are not the investigative body. I know that fully understand that anything that we do or say down here, we have a responsibility to explain it to our constituents base. And so again, since we don't have any other space to do it in, I wanted to give you the opportunity to explain it publicly. I think that the audit is already public, right? The audit that's already been done is already. And so any questions about that or information shared about that, somebody could pull that up right now. But in the instance of this situation, if it's about protecting a person, then I think that that's the spirit that we all have a responsibility and that we should move in. So thank you for explaining that for me and for the public today.
And thank you, Alderwoman.
Alderwoman from the 12th.
Madam President, members of the board, I also want to say I want to protect the personnel director also, because when I'm a person who have been made false claims against many times, I love when I get the chance, the news media comes to me, and when I finish sending them all the show how it was not true, then my name is cleared. So to me, the reason why I voted for it is because I want her name to be cleared, and I want people to know that when you are doing a job, sometimes you don't know something or something gets by you. That doesn't mean you're doing it for the wrong reasons. So also, I want the whistleblower to have to be responsible for allegations you made. It is, to me, always better to face your the person making allegations against you, or face the allegations and to present your facts. No, I'm going to make this work, I think. Maybe I'm not. I didn't use it that much. Okay, see, I don't trust yours. And anyway, it's important that you, thank you, that you face the allegations and be very truthful. And then the audit is a way for you to know what is going on in your department, and to, if there are problems, to make sure that they are corrected, and if they're not, to clear your name. I do have the document that was dated April 16th, which said at this time the office will take no further actions. If there is something further that has not been brought forward, then let it be, and then clear your name. It's hard to prove I didn't do something. It's better when somebody else proves that you didn't do something, then you can go on about your business. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Alderwoman from the 7th.
I just wanted to say on the record to Alderman Orion that I do think the
You must, pursuant to our rules, you must refer to him as Alderman from the 4th.
Alderman from the 4th, that I do get the spirit of what you're trying to do. I don't think that you're ill-intentioned at all. I don't think that's the case, and I understand the gravity of whistleblowers and what a risk that is. And I hear a lot of words that you're using about transparency and protection. It is a little disappointing to me that there was something that I spoke to you about, wanting to allow another to get an opportunity to have a platform and to also get transparency and to get protection, and you were unwilling to help me in that maneuver, but you're taking a strong stance for this. Not that I disagree with this, but I think it's just interesting sometimes who we think are worthy of certain things and who are not. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, Alderman from the 4th, you are recognized to close.
I renew my motion.
It's been moved by the Alderman from the 4th, seconded by the Alderwoman from the 12th, that we adopt resolution number 77. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Schweitzer. Alderman Oldenburg.
Aye.
Alderman Cone. Alderman Orion. Alderman Balmer.
Aye.
Alderwoman Velazquez.
Aye.
Alderwoman Sanier. Alderwoman Spencer. Alderman Browning.
Aye.
Alderwoman Clark Hubbard. Alderwoman Keys. Alderwoman Tyus.
Aye.
Alderwoman Boyd. Alderman Aldridge.
Present.
President Green,
Aye.
Alderman Boyd. 11 aye votes and 3 voted present.
By your vote, you sustain the motion from the Alderman from the 4th to adopt Resolution 77. Second reading resolutions, committee reports and adoptions.
Report from the Public Safety Committee, mayoral appointees to the Civilian Oversight Board, Bradley Ortega, Christine Brooks, Keith Rose, Harrison Sand, Stephen Rovak, Sierra Simrall, Jennifer Whitaker, and Derek Kilgore.
Alderman from the 4th, you are recognized on Mayor Jones' appointments to the Civilian Oversight Board.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I move that we approve the mayoral appointees to the Civilian Oversight Board.
It's been moved by the Alderman from the 4th, seconded by the Alderman from the 3rd, that we approve Mayor Jones' appointments to the Civilian Oversight Board. Alderman, you may proceed.
Thank you, Madam President. We held these for a week pending further discussions with the administration. All these folks had come through the Public Safety Committee and had an opportunity to, the committee had an opportunity to ask them all questions. I think the committee did a pretty good job asking really a lot of questions. We dove in a lot further than many other appointees, and all of these folks came out with a do pass recommendation, and I ask for your favorable consideration.
Any further discussion? Alderman from the 14th.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I wanted to move to divide the question on the appointees of these individuals.
Madam Clerk, please make note of that. That is a non-debatable motion, so we will take each appointee through a separate vote.
So noted.
Any? Do we need a second on? I don't think we do. No. Okay. It's non-debatable, so yes. Were you? Yeah, sorry, I thought Alderwoman from the 8th was standing for something. Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Alderman from the 14th.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. And the reason I made the motion to divide the question, I will point out, I think 2 members and all of their resumes is in our drive for us to be able to look at. The committee voted, I want to say 3-4 on Mr. Stephen Rovak. There was a lot of concerns. This board has not met since for a very long time. Yes, they were in a junction for a while, but even after the injunction had happened with Mr. Rovak being chair of this committee, the board had continued not to meet. I think this is a very serious board. I know we keep throwing out this word, transparency, all day today. You know, this is one of those boards that allow for citizens to sit on the civilian oversight to make sure that, not saying our department's doing anything wrong, but there's just a little extra set of eyes. This one appointee has been on the board since the very beginning under the appointment of Lyda Cruz since 2016. I think it's one of those things that it's a saying, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I think the Civilian Oversight Board has been broke for a very long time, and it needs to be fixed. And I think Mr. Rovak is one of those individuals that is not helping move this board forward. I think there's a lot more qualified individuals that we need to take the time, the mayor's office need to take the time to really look at other candidates and not recycle a lot of individuals that started on this board that's been holding it up. I know Cabcar and others spoke against Mr. Rovak. Again, this was probably the one vote out of all public safety committee members that was almost very close not to passing. So I think that alone is a serious charge, as well as Mr. Bradley. There were questions about maybe his affiliation, as I know he only sits on the 2nd or 3rd district business police kind of board that only that works with businesses in the ward that do events for law enforcement. I know it's speaking with members on the committee. There has been a fear that those relationships can potentially have some interference of the work that they're trying to do when it comes to confidential information that they have. And I believe only other one that had some pushback was Ms. Brooks, which myself and the alderwoman from the 11th ward voted against. Again, I think we need to take this board very serious of making sure that we got the right candidates. I think all the rest of them are very good, but I would really push back on Mr. Rovak, Mr. Bradley, and Ms. Brooks. Thank you.
Alderman from the 4th.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. In regards to Mr. Ortega, he does sit on the board for the there's an organization that has a luncheon annually. It's a bunch of business owners that throw a luncheon for the police officers of the 2nd District. I think maybe the alderman from the 5th may be able to, or excuse me, 2nd may be able to weigh in a bit more on that particular organization. But one of the things that we did bring up in committee was, despite the fact, I don't think that we can look for someone and say, hey, you can't have any, positive or negative interactions with police officers, and you're going to be in a position where you are engaging in oversight. I think necessarily we want these people to be members of our community, and police officers are out in our community. And so people are going to have both positive and negative interactions. I think the important thing is that they're able to come to the table and look at any specific matter that's before them in an unbiased fashion. Mr. Ortega spoke to that. I believe that he certainly can do that. With Mr. Rovak, my colleague says that we should be looking for more qualified candidates. He's a Harvard-educated lawyer who's willing to spend his time for free engaging in this. I think part of the reason why he's gotten some pushback is because he was elected by his colleagues at the time the chairperson of the committee, and I think people may have been looking at him as if he was the lawyer for that board. He was not the lawyer for the board and was trying to get guidance from the city councilor's office regarding the injunction that was in place. But I don't believe that we should be turning away people who I would say, at least a person who I would say is a highly qualified individual to be looking at these. Not every day that a Harvard-educated lawyer wants to volunteer their time to try and make one of our boards a better place and our city a better place. So I would ask for your favorable consideration on all.
Any further discussion, Alderwoman from the 12th?
Madam President, members of the board, sometimes I think people forget boards and commission are not supposed to be made up of all the same people. If you practice law, you cannot have a prosecutor without a defender. So when you think about these boards, I think a lot of times people think about, well, there's been a lot of problems with the police or with the jails or whatever, and that's true. But to have a good board or good commission, you need to have balance, and that will be some people who agree with you and some that do not. I am glad that we are now sending more people to the committees to be vetted. That is why I always vote no for those who try to pass them on the floor. And for the person who has done that, I was surprised to hear them talking about transparency, because on more than one occasion they stood and did that. And I will say that in my early career, we did send people almost always to be vetted at the committee. But we cannot expect that we're going to get a board that thinks like us. So I don't have to agree with you. That was not my reason to want them vetted. I wanted to make sure there was not a reason, there was a conflict of interest, or there was a criminal reason or any other kind of thing. And sometimes we need to look at how long people have been sitting on these boards and commissions, because right now we have somebody who's been the chair of a commission here for over 20, 25 years, and that's ridiculous. Been sitting in that spot, and so we do need to shake them up sometimes. But just because we don't like a person's political point of view or their position on something, that doesn't mean they may bring something to you that you would not have thought of. And that was the reason that we didn't put a specific restriction, because we had a civilian oversight back in 2015. Then we rolled it into a new one, but we will have diverse group of people. And if they don't have some kind of legal reason for them not to serve, or they haven't, then there's no reason for us to say, well, but we don't agree with them politically, so they shouldn't be there. So we will have people who will be more prosecutory or more pro-police. We'll have people who will be a little more skeptic of the police, and we'll have people who just downright don't trust them. They all make up a good board of people who should be on the Civilian Review Board. Thank you.
Alderwoman from the 7th.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. The committee was, for those of my colleagues who didn't get a chance to make it, I would agree with Alderman Ryan. It was really great questions, and I really appreciated his specific questions about, did you have positive and negative interactions with the police? And what's probably not surprising to most of us is most people said both. And I also feel like anytime somebody wants to give their time to these boards and commissions, I always appreciate that. So I want to make it clear that, my comments are not in regards to not appreciating the effort. But something that also came up at that committee meeting is that the vice chair of that committee, Sierra Cimarel, she spoke at length about not being included as vice chair with the chair of the commission. And again, I really appreciate degrees and Harvard Law degrees and things like that, but this is a civilian oversight board that was in large part created because we had someone who was murdered by the police department. And so I think when when members of the committee are saying, of that board are saying, well, we actually didn't have meetings in community, we actually didn't take public comment, we were forced to only give public comment. I mean, Capcar came, a representative of Capcar came and said we had to watch each meeting every month because we only got an opportunity to give comment every 3 months or every 4 months, and we only had a few moments to do so. So we had to put all of our comments in there. So for me, I am not opposed to anyone because of any affiliations. I spoke to Alderman Oldenburg about Bradley Ortega and his role on that business district, and we actually addressed it, and I think it's fine. I don't think that role is a conflict of interest, and I would agree that the balance is helpful. My concern would be about the previous chair of that committee, because there were several board members who reached out to me and said that they feel like the chair did not advocate for them, that the chair just went along with what was going on, and we understand that they didn't meet for quite some time. Some of it had to do with legislation, but again, if members on that board said that they feel like the chair didn't advocate, if also members of that board, and it is a civilian oversight board, so it's supposed to be a process that includes civilians and the public in, are saying, well, we had to rush our public comment on the quarterly chance that we got the opportunity to do so. So for me, my concerns are not about, credentials or even the position on the police business district. My concerns about, is this board actually going to be community focused? I think it's very important that we take public comment and that we encourage those to take public comment. I asked every single one of them, if you were to be reappointed, would you do that? But again, there were actual members on the board, and you can watch it, who said, no, we only did that quarterly. My other concern is the effectiveness. If you're not talking to your vice chair, if you're not cluing your committee members in on discussions, if they don't feel as if you've included them in things as they happen, how can you be effective? And again, the other concern is the vice chair was a Black woman. And she said intentionally that she felt left out of the conversations, and she felt like she was isolated, and she felt like she wasn't getting the information that she should have gotten, rightfully so, as vice chair. So I just want to make sure that we have this conversation in full, and that, again, while I appreciate credentials, the goal of this board is to provide additional insight and oversight and transparency to something that we all know has struggled with it. And from what I heard from actual committee members who came to the meeting and other members who reached out to me and called me, I think that specifically Mr. Rovak, who was the previous chair, that is the person that I would, not want to move forward with. But I want to be clear, it's not because I actually think the committee is balanced. You have someone who is a well-known activist and organizer, and you have someone who sits on the police business district. I think that's great balance. Our board is similar. We all hold different perspectives, but I do think that we owe just due. I want this board to operate. I want it to be effective. I want to know that if my constituents have a problem in the community, they have somewhere they can go to file a complaint, and it will be taken seriously. And if the members of the board are saying public comments not happening, communication is not happening amongst each other, the one Black woman on the board who's vice chair is not being left out, then I don't see how we could ever trust that at some point this board will be effective and will meet its purpose. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Any Alderwoman from the 6th?
Thank you. I just want to, I think, echo some of my colleagues' comments from my colleagues from the 14th and the 7th. I did vote no for Mr. Rovac simply because he's been on the board since 2015. I think was his original appointment, and during his chairmanship, there were concerns. I heard concerns too about ability for the board to meet, not really meeting regularly. It seemed to be not really prioritizing. A perspective of not really wanting to prioritize public comment. I could not believe that we are holding meetings and people are getting parking tickets because of the time and place of their meeting. And I do feel like, from my perspective, a chair should accept that is the chair's job as leading the, whatever you're leading, but in this instance, leading this oversight board in a way that prioritizes public comment and public feedback, and we know that that is one of the reasons that we created this board. And so I do think there's been ample time for him to prove that, and in my mind, and just hearing the pushback and comments and even his response, his testimony was not satisfactory to me that he seemed to prioritize that. So I voted no then, and I will vote no again today. Thank you.
Any further discussion, Alderwoman from the 7th?
Sorry, I just also wanted to add, speaking of terms and time served, that the previous chair has been there for 8 or 9 years, and to make sure we all had that as we take this vote.
Any further aldermen from the 2nd?
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. This may be the 3rd or 4th time that I've said this in 7 years, but I 100% agree with the alderwoman from the 12th ward on her statements around the diversity of the board. And I think it is important that you have those who have longer tenure from when the institution or the body was formed, as well as new members. And I think Mr. Rovac brings that long tenured institutional knowledge and can be helpful in that perspective to the board. I also do want to address what a police business association is. That is a collection of businesses. Think of it as a mini chamber of commerce who do have relationships with the police districts to which those businesses are domiciled so that they can be aware of crime trends to protect their property. I don't think that unduly influences anyone who's a member of a business association to not be objective with the Civilian Oversight Board. I voted in favor of Mr. Bradley Ortega, who is a third-generation Latino business owner in the city of St. Louis, just like I voted for Mr. Rose, who is an avid advocate and activist in the community, and his social media posts clearly come off as an anti-establishment, anti-police, and I voted in favor of him, in addition to his many lawsuits that he's been part of against St. Louis Metropolitan Police Department. So I think that diversity in that range that the Alderwoman from the 12th spoke at, I just want to reiterate and thank her for that.
Alderwoman from the 12th.
Madam President, members of the board, I'm almost laughing out loud when I hear people talk about the length that people have been on boards and commissions. You obviously didn't do your homework, because all those ones you've been voting for, and I would speak specifically to lack of diversity of the Board of Adjustment and the length of times that people have been appointed to most of the boards and commissions that you have voted yes on. If this is a problem, I suggest you go back and start looking at your votes for these people and then finding out how many terms that they have served. Many of them have been appointed in the first term of Francis Slay, who did 16 years, reappointed under Lyda Cruz and when I started to ask questions, and then reappointed under the current Mayor Jones. So if length of service is a concern, I think we need to clear out a whole group of people on all the boards and committees and have some fresh faces. But if that is not a concern, then there has to be another issue to that. As far as the former chair, he is not doing his job, there are several things that should be done. One is maybe the people will get together and not make him the chair this time. Two, there are usually ways that even when the chair is doing wrong, that you can call hearings and meetings anyway. So perhaps they need to have a way so if the chair's not doing what he's supposed to or what the majority thinks, then the majority can call their own rule. But I am not going to vote against any of the people. I'm going to vote for all of them because they are diverse. And also because I've not really seen, I've been dealing with civilian review, oversight, all of this since 1991 when the former alderman from the 18th introduced me to these different kind of committees. And I've not seen really any of them really get into meat and potatoes and be able to do anything because there are some reasons why they are not successful. But if we're going to put them on the board, I do like diversity. I've always preached that, and I still will preach it for the Board of Adjustment, which has none, has like 3 members from maybe the same ward or same area and been there forever. So we cannot be hypocrites and talk about stuff unless we have walked the walk, and I will be voting for these, all of the members of this board.
Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, if we could please take up members one by one, starting with Bradley Arteaga. So Madam Clerk, or how are we going to do this? Alderman from the 4th, why don't you make a motion for Bradley Arteaga?
Sure,
We'll go
sure.
through each one by one, take a vote.
Happy to do so. At this point, I move that we appoint Mr. Bradley Arteaga to the Civilian Oversight Board.
Second.
It was moved by the Alderman from the 4th, seconded by the Alderman from the 5th, that we approve Mayor's appointment of Bradley Arteaga to the Civilian Oversight Board. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Schweitzer. Aye. Alderman Oldenburg.
Aye.
Alderman Cone. Alderman Narayan.
Aye.
Alderman Valmer.
Aye.
Alderwoman Velazquez.
Aye.
Alderwoman Sanye.
Aye.
Alderwoman Spencer.
Aye.
Alderman Browning.
Aye.
Alderwoman Clark Hubbard.
Aye.
Alderwoman Keys.
Aye.
Alderwoman Tyus. Alderwoman Boyd. Alderman Aldridge.
No.
President Green.
Aye.
Alderman Cone.
Aye.
Alderwoman Boyd. 13 aye votes and 1 no vote.
By your vote, you sustain the motion.
Thank you, Madam President. At this point, I move that we approve Ms. Christine Brooks to the Civilian Oversight Board.
Second.
It's been moved by the Alderman from the 4th, seconded by the Alderman from the 5th, that we approve Mayor Jones' appointment of Christine Brooks to the Civilian Oversight Board. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Schweitzer. Aye. Alderman Oldenburg.
Aye.
Alderman Cone.
Aye.
Alderman Narayan.
Aye.
Alderman Valmer.
Aye.
Alderwoman Velazquez.
Aye.
Alderwoman Sanye.
Aye.
Alderwoman Spencer.
Aye.
Alderman Browning.
Aye.
Alderwoman Clark Hubbard. Alderwoman Keys.
No.
Alderwoman Tyus.
Aye.
Alderwoman Boyd. Alderman Aldridge.
No.
President Green.
Aye.
Alderwoman Boyd. 12 aye votes and 2 no votes.
By your vote, you sustain the motion from the Alderman from the 4th.
Thank you, Madam President. At this point, I move that we appoint Mr. Keith Rose to the Civilian Oversight Board.
Second.
It's been moved by the Alderman from the 4th, seconded by the Alderman from the 5th, that we approve Mayor Jones' appointment of Keith Rose to the Civilian Oversight Board. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Schweitzer.
Aye.
Alderman Oldenburg.
Aye.
Alderman Cone.
Aye.
Alderman Narayan.
Aye.
Alderman Valmer.
Aye.
Alderwoman Velazquez.
Aye.
Alderwoman Sanye.
Aye.
Alderwoman Spencer.
Aye.
Alderman Browning.
Aye.
Alderwoman Clark Hubbard.
Aye.
Alderwoman Keys.
Aye, yes, thank you.
Alderwoman Tyus.
Aye.
Alderwoman Boyd, Alderman Aldridge,
Aye.
President Green,
Aye.
Alderwoman Boyd. 14 aye votes.
By your vote, you sustain the motion from the Alderman from the 4th.
Thank you, Madam President. At this point, I move that we appoint Mr. Harrison Sand to the Civilian Oversight Board.
Second.
It's been moved by the Alderman from the 4th, seconded by the Alderman from the 5th, that we approve Mayor Jones' appointment of Harrison Sand to the Civilian Oversight Board. There was a request for previous role. Hearing no objection, motion passes.
Thank you, Madam President. At this point, I move that we approve Mr. Stephen Rovak to the Civilian Oversight Board.
It's been moved by the Alderman from the 4th, seconded by the Alderman from the 2nd, that we adopt Mayor Jones' appointment of Steve Rovak to the Civilian Oversight Board. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Schweitzer.
Aye.
Alderman Oldenburg.
Aye.
Alderman Cone.
Aye.
Alderman Orion.
Aye.
Alderman Balmer.
Aye.
Alderwoman Velazquez.
No.
Alderwoman Sanye.
No.
Alderwoman Spencer.
Present.
Alderman Browning. Alderwoman Clark Hubbard.
Aye.
Alderwoman Keys.
Aye.
Alderwoman Tyus. Alderwoman Boyd. Alderman Aldridge.
No.
President Green.
No.
Alderman Browning.
Present.
Alderwoman Boyd. 8 aye votes, 4 no votes, and 2 voted present.
By your vote, you sustain the motion from the Alderman from the 4th.
Thank you, Madam President. At this point, I move that we appoint Ms. Sierra Simrel to the Civilian Oversight.
Second.
Been moved by the Alderman from the 4th, seconded by the Alderman from the 5th, that we approve Mayor Jones' appointments of Sierra Simrel to the Civilian Oversight Board. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Schweitzer.
Aye.
Alderman Oldenburg. Alderman Cone.
Aye.
Alderman Orion. Alderman Balmer.
Aye.
Alderwoman Velazquez.
Aye.
Alderwoman Sanye. Alderwoman Spencer.
Aye.
Alderman Browning.
Aye.
Alderwoman Clark Hubbard.
Aye.
Alderwoman Keys.
Aye.
Alderwoman Tyus. Alderwoman Boyd. Alderman Aldridge.
Aye.
President Green.
Aye.
Alderwoman Boyd. 14 aye votes.
By your vote, you approve the motion of the Alderman from the 4th.
Thank you, Madam President. At this point, I move that we approve Ms. Jennifer Whitaker to the Civilian Oversight.
Second.
Previous role.
Been moved by the Alderman from the 4th, seconded by the Alderman from the 5th, that we approve Mayor Jones' appointment of Jennifer Whitaker to the Civilian Oversight Board. There was a request for previous role. Hearing no objection, motion passes.
Thank you, Madam President. Last but not least, I move that we approve Mr. Derek Kilgore to Civilian Oversight.
Second.
It's been moved by the Alderman from the 4th, seconded by the Alderman from the 5th, that we approve Mayor Jones' appointment of Derek Kilgore to the Civilian Oversight Board. There's a request for previous role. Hearing no objection, motion passes.
That's the extent of second reading, resolutions, committee reports, and adoptions.
Miscellaneous and unfinished business.
We have none.
Announcements.
Tuesday, June 25th, HUDs will have a hearing in the Kennedy Room at 11 a.m. Wednesday, June 26th, Public Infrastructure in the Kennedy Room at 3:30 p.m. Friday, June 28th, 2024, full board meeting in the chambers at 10 a.m. That's the extent of the announcements.
Is there any further announcements? Alderman from the 4th.
Thank you, Madam President. Members of the board, at 2 p.m., Public Safety will meet in the Kennedy Room Thursday, June 27th to discuss Prop S funds. Thank you.
Any further announcements? Any further announcements? Alderwoman from the 10th.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. On Tuesday, during the HUD's committee, we will have a presentation on the St. Louis City disparity study that was done through consultants and SLDC. Public comment will be taken, And everyone that wants to not only participate in this, but might want to listen, please be sure that you're engaged in it. There's absolutely some work that needs to be done in this space. Everyone talks about one equity and talks about inclusion, but when you see numbers, numbers don't lie. And so this presentation is important, and I'm hoping that everyone will engage in it. And I also want to share that this is the 21st, unfortunately, the 21st anniversary of the day that Christian Ferguson went missing, and there will be a remembrance of him that happens, quite frankly, every year, but it's on the 23rd, which is Sunday at 4 p.m. in Forest Park. And again, I want to keep that family, his mother, his siblings, all of his loved ones lifted up as they continue to memorialize Christian Ferguson here on the 21st anniversary. Thank you.
Any further announcements? Alderwoman from the 11th.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. So today is the day that fishing in the park, father-son day in the Hyde Park. This is sponsored by the Community's First not-for-profit organization. They've been doing this for a number of years now with the great assistance of Committee Woman Lucinda Frazier, former Alderman Brandon Bosley, and this year assisting is myself and the Alderman of the mighty 14th Ward, Rasheen Aldridge. So today, or this afternoon, they will begin to set up their tents, and there will be fishing, football, camping, basketball, all of those activities. On Saturday, it's a family day, so that's for the full family. That begins at noon to 4. There'll be horseback riding, face painting, bounce house, food, games, DJ, ice cream truck, and more. And of course, there's always room for more fishing. I want to just do a quick shout out to the Blue Mire residents who recently had their annual reunion. That housing project has been there for many years and has produced some very great people, many of whom I was able to go to school with over at the old Central Catholic Community School. So shout out to them. Additionally, this is the last weekend for Circus Flora, so get your tickets through Metro Tix. And last but not least, last but not least, on the 29th, which is next Saturday, we will have Tire Amnesty Day. Want to make sure that we put that out there. We'll take the tires from anyone, no questions asked. Bring those to the designated 3 locations that we have set up and get a free gas gift card. We will give out gift cards until we run out, and we thank everyone for your participation.
Further announcements. Alderman from the 5th.
I'd like to conduct an audit, see if the Alderwoman Keys is being reimbursed for all these announcements over there. I feel like I'm watching a telethon.
I have received no remuneration for any services. Thank you.
I approve that message.
Alderman from the 3rd.
Thank you, Madam President. I would like to announce a TNC committee meeting for Monday afternoon at 3 p.m.
Oh, so sorry.
Alderwoman from the 11th.
Please forgive me once again. This news just came in. So there will be an 11th Ward O'Fallon neighborhood meeting that is scheduled for June 27th at 6 p.m. at the O'Fallon Boathouse. Special guests will be Captain Matthew Karnowski, which is our 6th District Police Captain, Alderwoman Laura Keys, that would be me, and the Recreations Commissioner, Greg Hayes. So we look forward to you all coming out and bringing your questions and concerns. Thank you.
Alderwoman from the 1st, did you have one or were you? Okay, sorry. Misinterpreted the hand signal. Any further announcements? Alderwoman from the 7th.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I have three announcements. The first announcement I want to make is that there will be a redevelopment agreement that is before the LCRA Commission on June 25th at 3 p.m. So I would encourage folks to tune in and watch. I know a lot of folks within the 7th Ward have been following what's been going on with St. Alexis Hospital very closely. It's been a huge nuisance. I know I got a lot of outreach recently about a murder that we had suspected to that area, and it's just been a huge hazard to community members and to folks in that area. And so I want to make sure that it's on that folks know that I will be proceeding and moving forward with some legislation to hopefully, reclaim the property and find someone who can be more responsible with it. So I want to make sure that agenda, that meeting is on the books. I also want to make sure to do my usual announcement about the unhoused bills. Many of my colleagues we've met, we've had conversations at least once or twice. Some of you all, we've even done smaller worker groups with people who are opposed. So again, want to make sure you all know that door is open, because when it's on the Planning Commission agenda, I would like it to not be a surprise to anyone as much as possible. And my last announcement is just a thank you to a thank you and an announcement that on Sunday at the Rita Ford Center, we're going to continue to do the food share. It has been a really big success. A lot of folks have come. It is in Gravois Park neighborhood, but there's been a lot of families that have indicated that they would struggle with food, and also announced that they will be taking food contributions and donations so that they can keep that drive going, and we can make sure that folks in our communities have foods even when school is not in session. Thank you.
Alderman from the 14th.
Try to get my voice as good as an alderwoman from the 11th Ward to see if I can.
You will have to really work hard.
I'm trying. I don't know what level or how I should go. But next Saturday, June 29th, from 10:30 to 11 p.m., the alderman from the 14th Ward, that is me, and the committee woman of the 14th Ward, Lucinda Frazier Bosley, who's the co-host of this event, will have a town hall at 1421 North Jefferson. Residents will be able to meet the candidates that is on the August 6th ballot and learn about the issues so that they can get out and vote. Come out and hang with the aldermen of the 14th Ward and 14th Ward committee woman. Thank you. At metrotix.com.
Any further announcements? Any further announcements? Seeing none, I do want to thank all the members of the board who have taken the time to meet with my team and I over the last week regarding the proposed charter changes by the Charter Commission. We are hoping to be able to submit all of the feedback we've gotten from the board over to the Charter Commission to inform their work. We, if you don't check your email and the millions of emails we sent out, also we expect that the proposed charter amendments will be introduced at the July 12th meeting, and we have called 2 special board meetings over our summer recess, August 8th and August 16th, in order to be able to get those amendments on the ballot. So I just want to make sure that everybody has seen the emails regarding that. And if you have not met with my team and I and would like to make sure that you have some feedback into the Charter Commission along with some of your colleagues, don't hesitate to reach out to me or Christine Ingracia from my office. We would love to hear everybody's thoughts. With that, Alderwoman from the 10th, you are recognized on a motion to excuse.
Thank you, Madam President. All members were present this morning.
Good job. Alderwoman from the 10th, you are recognized on the motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Madam President. Members of the board, I move that we adjourn until Friday, 28, 2024, in the chambers. Unless it's over 85 degrees, we will be back here in the Kennedy Room.
Second.
It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 10th, seconded by the Alderman from the 3rd, that we adjourn until Friday, June 28, 2024, the Board of Aldermen chambers, unless it's over 85 degrees, in which we will be back in here again. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? No. Motion carries.